All right. Yeah, we're good. All right, see you at 1 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and get this meeting for the ARPA Strategy and Commission Outcomes Commission started. As always, we like to open up with public comments if we have public comments. So we'll start with the room first and then go on Zoom if there's anybody who wishes to make public comments. So anybody in the room wishes to make public comments? Please.
Supervisor Hanson, District 26, Winnebago County. I just want to reiterate my gratitude to this commission for the work that is put in and reiterate the very hard topic that I mentioned when Beth put her presentation forward. People that are presenting, people that have advocated for, including myself, for things for disbursement of these funds, there are going to be no's, and everyone has to be prepared for that. I will just tell you that when it comes down to the nits and grits and comes before the board, I will speak for myself only, that I'm just looking for what is going to be the best benefit to the county and not necessarily what might make me feel good at the time. I have to weigh the hard yeses and nos. And again, that just means some people are going to be told no. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yep.
Yes, if I could. Pete Sweeney with Fox Crossing Fire. I just wanted to thank the commission. I did go around and get the backup documentation. You all asked for the radio project. I forwarded it to Adam or John's office and Tom as well. They have the supporting documentation in the quote. I appreciate the consideration very much, and I understand the challenge you guys have. This request would benefit all residents in the county because it's pretty much every department in the county has put in for it. And then and also the quote has come from Motorola. It's actually the same vendor and the same salesperson and the same radio that the sheriff has. And the reason we went with that radio is for a few reasons. First of all, the county has a Motorola CAD system. That radio blends with that CAD system, so it avoids any challenges there. The Motorola has by far and away the longer life expectancy and the longer reach as far as distance with the transmission. So that data is supported. So again, I understand the challenges you all have, and I appreciate the time and effort you're putting into this and the consideration for the county fire departments. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Could you tell us what the difference is between was it 1 channel and 2 channel, or?
I'm not a radio junkie, so I'm gonna try to fool you here. The single band and dual band basically is the difference. So the single band radios would be for our 700 megahertz system. The 800 trunking system with Calumet County and some other I'm not sure all the counties. I know Calumet County's and a couple to the western part. Sean might even know because he worked over there. Yeah, there's still VHF, Washer, and Wapaka and that. We can switch between the trunking and the non-trunking with the dual band radios. So some of the command officers and like, just for example, an engine from us who has auto aid with Calumet County, one engine comes from our east side station to automatic aid with Calumet County. That might have a dual band. So when they go there, they can get into their trunk system. So it's not every radio in the department. It'd just be the radios that blend with those counties.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
One more, and I believe Fond du Lac is the same, right? You need dual to communicate with people in Fond du Lac as well?
I believe so, yep. Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Doug Nelson, supervisor, 35th district, village of Winnie County. And I was hoping I'd win the mega jackpot tonight, but when I see all the struggles you guys are going through with this money, I'm kind of hoping I don't win it now, so I won't have to deal with that. But as far as the village of Winnie County, I have moved 3 times in my life. I've never lived farther away from that old county park than 1 block. So I know all about that park. It's a wonderful park. We still call it the county park because that's what it always was. Give or take around 2004, The county was putting a lot of effort into their county park. And that one was overgrown with weeds in a dire shape. The village, I was on the board at the time, the village went forward and asked the county, if you aren't gonna mow it, why don't you just give it to us? I don't think we knew how much work and maintenance it was to maintain a park at that point, and we've struggled to maintain it since. I mean, the budget shortfalls, so forth. This is kind of an opportunity for the county to give us a shot in the arm and help us get it back to and improve on it in this case. We still intend to maintain it. We still intend to go forward, but we've got some great plans for that park. It still is used by the entire county. I think it is the best boat launch in the area. Of course, it's in between the small lakes and so forth. It's a very unique spot. We just hope that you would consider giving us a one-time shot in the arm so that we can get back on top of our parks. The one thing we struggle with, the village the size of Winnie County, the state says you need about 25 acres of park. We have 75 acres of park. It's a wonderful thing and it's a curse all at the same time. So just ask for your consideration.
Anyone else in the room would like to make public comments? Anyone else in the room? Yep. Go ahead.
Hi again, everybody. Kelly Olson from Damascus Road Project here. Wanted to share with you a couple things since the last meeting that I think are really, really valuable for you guys to know. During the last meeting, I got up to use the restroom and we identified somebody who's been trafficked right in our lobby here, who had a child with her that was in her care that needed medical attention. And we identified a second woman who's a survivor, who's in custody here, the mother of that child. And both are now receiving services from us. When I left the meeting to try and help them, I got to the office and there was a third new client there that was brought by OPD, who was trying to get away from somebody who was exploiting her, and we needed to help her. A day in the life kind of picture of who we're helping. I just think it's really kind of important. Since that meeting, we have worked with jail staff, a judge, the PO, an attorney, a prosecutor, program director, and we transported a girl to a 2-year program out of state at no cost to the city, the county, or the state for deep healing. We transported a second girl who was being pursued by her traffickers out of state so she could be safe at no cost to anybody again. We are 35 new clients heavier just yesterday alone because Techeetah had their prison resource fair. Before COVID, we picked up 13 clients at that fair that are going to be releasing within the year into community. Yesterday, we picked up 35, met with 6 existing clients, and 29 additional people took brochures to give to someone who they thought might be, in our wheelhouse. These are all people that are going to be releasing to our communities and are going to need consistent ongoing resources to recover from the trauma of trafficking. So we cannot do this without this funding. Our growth is just exponential since COVID, and we are grateful that you're considering us. And I really feel honestly that you guys are all standing behind our project. Whether the money's there to fund it or not, that's a different thing. I truly believe that you guys all are supporting us as an organization, and we're grateful for that. And I wanted to invite you next Wednesday, October 18th, we have our monthly free Trafficking 101 class that we're hosting from 6 to 8 at our office. If you'd like to learn more about what's happening right here in our county, we just invite you to come and join us. And I just want to thank you for your support and ongoing consideration.
On that, I just wanted to thank you for bringing that situation to our attention last meeting. I know that I had to leave the room and Corporation Council left the room to see what we do, and she's sweet. Thank you so much for coming out and checking on the kid to make sure he was okay. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Any other comments in the room? Can I say? Yep.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Pingle. I'm with St. Vincent de Paul and Nina. I'm the Director of Operations. We, in February of 21, took over a food pantry from a local church. The person was hurt and couldn't do it. We didn't know that it was as hectic as it is. We started with 50 families. We just passed 1,900 families in the northern Winnebago County area. We grow about 50 to 70, almost up to 90 new families a month. We are expanding into a new location and we put a request in and we're hoping for some help with that. The cost of food is what's really hurting us, to keep the pantry full and keep it. And if we could divert funds paying off the renovation and the purchase and put that to food, that would be so amazingly helpful. So I just wanted to say that and thank you for consideration.
Anybody else in the room would like to make public comment?
Kyle Coonan, I don't know my district. I'm a resident of Menasha. I'm here to speak and ask you to help the city of Menasha and its redevelopment authority to acquire the Whiting site. It is a site on Lake Winnebago Udemore system. That would be great for development of high-end housing or industrial use. With the ARPA funds, if you could help the city and the redevelopment authority to acquire it, they would be able to direct the development, either bringing in jobs or additional residences in the county, which would be beneficial. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? Anybody else in the room? Moving to Zoom. If anybody on Zoom wishes to speak, please raise your hand. Raise your Zoom hand if you could. Anyone on Zoom? Going the third time. We got someone? All right. And who are we asking to unmute?
Yep, I am.
Who?
So it's gonna be Barb.
Barb?
Oh,
No?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, I'm here, I'm waving on camera. I'm with First Five Fox Valley and appreciate the opportunity that.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can you please start with your name, please?
Yes, my name is Barb Tangestal and I'm with First Five Fox Valley. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present our grant proposal to you today. We were asked for some additional questions. We answered them and we feel like what we're doing is a really worthwhile proposal, bringing a Help Me Grow navigator to your community. We are in many other communities and not in Oshkosh, and we have a lot of young children under the age of 5 and their families that really could use this support. And so as you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And thank you for even considering adding in the support around early childhood education and how the pandemic affected these families and children.
Thank you. Next up is that Deb Martin. Right?
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I first of all want to say I am horrified that the county was so quick to give themselves a big raise. And yet it's taken over 2.5 years of holding on to funds that were meant to help people in our community. I heard about the pantries. I know I'm a part of, and I live in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, 164 Wildwood Drive in Oshkosh. The needs of our homeless situation, low income housing, not high end. We need low income, affordable housing for people. We need childcare. There are so many needs. We need to help people getting released from prison and so on. And why there's time in the county to give yourselves a raise at the same time that there's so many needs, fire departments and so on. I just urge you to act as quickly as possible to get these funds into around our county for all the needs there are. Thank you for your service. Bye. Or I'm done. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, who is next? I can't read that one.
Katie Olson.
Katie Olson, okay.
Yes, I am Katie Olson. I am the organizer for Esther, and we have a Oshkosh task force. Well, thank you for letting me speak today. But I wanted to address our homelessness issue, and I see that Lucia is on the agenda, so thank you for giving her that time. But I really want to urge the county to find ways to allocate as much money as possible into housing, because it is needed, especially for low income and justice impacted persons. The homelessness rate in our area has tripled in the last few months, and it's not even winter yet, so we really need to be well, as proactive as we can be, but also reactive at this time. So just please consider that as funds are being dispersed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Anybody else on Zoom? Last time, anybody else on Zoom? All right, we're gonna close that.
Comment.
Oh, what? Is that somebody else speaking up?
Yes, Steve Nielsen with Nielsen Communications regarding the radios.
Can you hold on 1 second? Is there any way we can get the volume up on these speakers? Steve Nielsen?
Yes, that's correct.
Nielsen Radios.
Nielsen?
Nielsen Communications, yeah. I didn't know about the meeting. I would have been down there in person, but I just wanted to let the committee know that we provided a competitive quote. We were asked to do that by Ethan at the county exec office. And he has that in place. And I think it would behoove the committee to take a look at it. As far as the competitiveness of our product that we have versus the Motorola, they're both 5-watt radios. So the transmit power is the same. So transmit and receive sensitivity is going to be the same. If not better on the Kenwood, we can prove that out with the state. We have several departments that are using radios on the county system, so they're fully compatible. And I think if you take a look at the numbers, you'll be quite amazed. We could have saved with the sheriff's department when they purchased. It was close to $1 million difference, and I think that's enough money that should be looked at seriously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom that wishes to speak? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. I know sometimes the raising the hand thing can be tricky. I don't want to deny somebody the opportunity.
Hi, Sandy Drexler. So I'm Sandy Drexler from Tri-County Dental. Thank you for looking at our proposal. I don't know if any of you have ever had dental pain, but it is something that can stop people in your tracks. And as we look at our work, while we are not located in Winnebago County, 40% of our patients are from Winnebago County. We take our mobile clinic out to 24 schools in Neenah and Oshkosh school districts. And we're working really hard to provide free care to the people, to the kids who are in your schools who are trying really hard to learn. If kids are able to minimize the time out of the classroom and have healthier teeth, they're going to do better in life. They'll be able to complete their education and hopefully get great jobs, stay out of homelessness, and be contributing members of society. We also have a walk-in clinic for people who are in pain and a veterans program. So we are caring for nearly 5,000 of our citizens every single year and appreciate the consideration that you're giving to us.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom that wishes to speak? Going once. Anyone else on Zoom? Anybody else on Zoom? All right, I think that's ample time. We're going to go ahead and close that. The next portion here is approval of the minutes of September 14th. Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That's unanimously. All right, moving on to item number 3, the update discussions, status of where municipalities stand regarding the $145,000 Spirit Fund distribution. Oh, I got the wrong one.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I got the wrong one. There we go. Number 3 is the presentation of ideas of housing consideration of funding to address the crisis center or a housing crisis. Lou Scheer, the Winnebago County Housing Coordinator. Thank you.
Had your little words there.
Yeah.
Thank you to the commission for taking the time to listen to me, and I don't envy your job that you have ahead of you. A lot of good arguments about what needs to be done. I want to be respectful of your time because you certainly have a large agenda, but I want to talk to you intensely about what we're looking for and what we need with the crisis, the housing crisis that we're having. John introduced me to you about a month ago and said I'd be back to speak about this idea. And it's been vaguely talked about in the application already, so it's not a brand new idea, but it's under number 50 on your wonderful spreadsheet, your incredible spreadsheet. And in regards to the city of Menasha asking for $1 to $6 million to be appropriated throughout the county for affordable housing. And I want to talk to you about how serious that is, and I'm going to change the focus of the consideration. As a really quick introduction of myself, I've been working in housing and housing development and property management my entire adult life. I did work for a for-profit developer in Dodge County, and we did projects there as well as in Key West, Florida. And I recently retired from AdvoCap after 25 years or 28 years as their affordable housing director. I oversaw the purchase, rehab, and construction of 100 units of rental housing in 3 counties it operates, as well as assisted households in purchasing and rehabbing houses throughout Winnebago County, Fond du Lac, and Lake. Over the years, I'm proud to have written millions of dollars of housing grants through multiple federal and state funding opportunities. So I'm aware of affordable housing. I've got some knowledge. I've been hired here as the housing grant specialist in Winnebago County since May. And some of the current projects I'm working on is the neighborhood investment funds, where we know the county received $10 million. And it was distributed amongst Covey day by day, Oshkosh Habitat for Humanity, Oshkosh Kids, and Solutions Recovery. All great projects, along with the health program that's being operated in Winnebago County with a lot of success. A larger part of my position, and the reason for my position, has to do with working with community developers and banks and other funding agencies, and to looking at the housing needs in Winnebago County and help develop that plan and how we can meet those needs. There's been a number of housing studies done over the years. I estimate I've probably been engaged in about 10 of them in 40 years. And each and every one of them said that we should build more housing. Each and every time, substantially more housing. Unfortunately, we did not keep up with that need. We are painfully aware that there isn't enough affordable rental housing or housing for purchase and for sale on the market. It is estimated the entire state of Wisconsin needs 140,000 homes. And then by 2030, and hopes to increase its working population. We want to have all these jobs filled. We need 227,000 homes. That translates to 18,000 of them in Winnebago County, or up to 30,000 if you really want to grow and fill the positions we have open. And you want people to come here, to live here, to play here, to raise their family here, to spend their money here. It is estimated that 1 in 4 households in Winnebago County are currently suffering a financial housing burden, meaning they're spending over 30% of their money on housing. And let's not forget, housing helps economic development. I said I focused on affordable housing for nearly 40 years, but now I just want to look at that word affordable. In 2010, an 1,800 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 3-car garage, good finishes, not over the top, nothing exceptional, cost about $133 a foot. Not lavish by any means, but it was an open concept in the 3-bedroom or the 3-car garage. Should I talk about that? My husband does. The same house today would cost $250 a square foot to build, nearly twice. A 30-year mortgage in 2010 at 2% would have been a house payment of approximately $710. If you sold that house today at the price that it's valued at, and they would first have to come up with $90,000 of down payment to do that traditional 20% down. They'd be paying at least 7.75% interest, and their house payment would be $2,937 a month, without insurances or taxes to boot. A new homeowner would need to make at least $150,000 a year, or about $67 an hour to qualify for that mortgage. That makes me question all of us. Are we living in affordable housing? Winnebago County has approximately 1,800 open jobs with an average salary of $22 an hour. There's no homes to buy. Nobody's moving. We've all heard the stories about houses being sold in less than a week for over asking price. You can see the problem. There's no middle housing. People are staying in their homes longer. I have 90-year-old neighbors who are staying there, having help brought in, because it's substantially cheaper for them to live in their own house than it is to live in assisted housing. Other people are now moving because they have their mortgages at low interest, 2-3%, versus moving now, they'd be paying more in interest. And I gave you an example of what that would look like. The natural flow of housing has been severely interrupted. In the Northeast region, Realtors Association, which is the 14 counties in the Northeast section of the state of Wisconsin, starting at Marinette and going down to Fond du Lac, has said that the median income price for a house in 2020 was $198,000. That same house in 2023 is now valued at $271,000, or a 37% increase. In August of 2020, 1,719 homes were actually sold. In August of 2023, 1,192 homes were sold, a 36% decrease. See how that's working. The last couple of years, we've seen new construction start again. If you've been looking at those homes, they start around 330 and easily go into the 400,000. The housing shortage is not only Winnebago County, it's absolutely nationwide. But proactive communities are doing something about it. In my position, I've been reading a lot of information, and I've been involved in a number of webinars and meetings in communities in Wisconsin and across the United States. One of the common things that I'm hearing in the communities, both cities and counties, are working. They haven't spent out all their ARPA money. They're working on it. And one of the things they're doing is they're setting aside ARPA funds to address the housing needs in their communities for the short and for the long term. It's been in counties across the United States with a variety of ultimate issues and uses for it. Infrastructure, zoning changes. We know that in order for the communities to change zoning, which is the #1 barrier to housing, that takes time and money to do that. There's been some construction and down payment assistance. I am urging Winnebago County to consider a model that invests these ARPA funds in ways that would create long-term assistance to home ownership. It is a recommendation that we set aside $6 million to provide assistance in developing housing. Some funds should be used for assisting rental housing, and you have a number of applications for transitional and other affordable housing projects that you're entertaining. But the primary intended purpose of these funds would be used for down payment assistance to persons who currently do not own homes. The funds would be provided in the form of a low-interest second mortgage with no payment due until the homeowner either sells their property or they pay off their mortgage. The interest charged to the homeowner would be used to offset the administrative cost of running this program throughout the county. I would urge you to consider investing, at minimum, the same amount of spirit funds that you set aside for the Land and Water Conservation Project, which is a project that will have long-term positive effects for the county, or for its emergency radios, which were not much needed, or amount of funding for local governments that you're providing. The set aside will be a long-term investment in our county and in the people who live here. Here's how big picture, just a big picture. How do I picture this even working, and what kind of an idea are we working in the community? The work group that I'm actually putting together will be meeting shortly. It will include funding sources, banks and other funding sources, developers, community planners, and economic development people. They will be tasked with developing new housing ideas for the county. One option that we'd like to consider is to change the type of housing we build. Think of your first home you bought. Mine was a 990 square foot Cape Cod. I think everybody knows what a Cape Cod is, okay? It had 2 bedrooms, bath, an eating kitchen, and a living room. We've all seen them, we all did it. Well, maybe not all, but okay. But by the time we sold it, we had added 3 bedrooms in the upstairs and a full bath. And we could afford to make the upgrades. Mind you, if you remember the 1980s, interest was somewhere between 16 and 12%. But we made these changes as we could afford to, and as we needed to as our family grew. If we used a similar housing concept, let's just talk about a 2-story home with an unfinished second floor, but we plumb it for a bath, and we plumb the basement for a bath, and we put egress windows in, it would make it more affordable to buy on the upfront. And it would provide, if we provide a substantial down payment assistance, along with the money that the homeowner would need to bring into it, it would make it affordable. That's why people would move here. And the owner would use their equity to invest in their homes, and they would have generational equity and funds when they left. Cities in Winnebago County are already looking at changes in the zoning, which, by the way, as I mentioned, is the largest blockage to doing any housing projects. If you told me 15 years ago that Oshkosh should have tiny houses, I would have been against it. But you know what? There are 32 of them on Packer Avenue, and they're all occupied, and they're all making changes in people's lives. Other communities that I've talked to said they have interest and the ability to adjust so they can do the same. So I think there's an interest in our communities to make these changes, to look at housing in a different way. But the problem is, there's a financial issue here. If you look at the median income for households in Winnebago County today, it's $64,000. That's what an average household makes. We do the math backwards and consider 28% of the income for a normal housing debt ratio. The 2 incomes, we can afford approximately $175,000 mortgage. Have you found a $175,000 house in the market right now? Probably not. So the new home value, if we were able to build these smaller houses of which I designed, and let's say they sold for $230,000, and we asked the homeowner to bring 10% to the table, or $23,000, and provided a $40,000 second mortgage down payment assistance, the home would be affordable. And I'm being told by the realtors and the bankers alike that if we build it, they will come. And that I mentioned that housing directly affects the economic development of our communities. And that housing style that I mentioned is just one style. We could do a pour foundation so that there could be future development on the outside. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. And there are architects and designers in town that are working on said designs. The revolving loan model by Winnebago County is already shown to be successful. If we look at the IDB, the Industrial Development Board, that some of you might be aware of, I was not, I learned a lot about it recently, is a similar project that was operated by the county since the early 1980s. In 1980, the county started with $1 million of federal reserves revenue that was passed down to communities, very similar to what the ARPA is doing. Loans were then made to municipalities, and they in turn loaned the money to either new businesses or invested in infrastructure to create industrial parks or areas new businesses could build in. The initial investment of $1 million ultimately led to over $11 million in revolving loans. The interest was charged 0.5% below prime, and in 1980, that was 12%. So that'd be 6% interest. The last loan on that particular fund was made about 2005. At that time, there was a surge in federal and state programs that went directly to municipalities. We've seen that happen. So there's a decreased interest in the county loan program. However, there's a current movement to move this to and work with Go EDC, who will provide the now $2.7 million budget directly to new and existing businesses for a similar format, revolving loans so they can advance and so they can improve and continue building in our community. If the county committed to this set aside funds for down payment, it will add value to the growth of the county now, economic development now, and continue being valued in the future. It will continue to help and address the housing crisis we see in the communities long beyond the time we see the results. Thoughts, questions?
Before we get into questions, can we make sure that door is propped open? If it's not, it is? It is?
Yeah.
Okay, look in the videos like it was closed, and I want to make sure. All right, that people are aware they can come in. All right, questions?
Okay. My brain goes back to when I was a lender. And I heard if people buy houses now, and I'm sure I'm familiar with something that Fond du Lac did with the redevelopment, you had to stay in your home for so many years. So I think it was like 6 or 7 years if you were gonna apply for this funding. But with prices so grossly inflated on homes, that would be my concern, is in 6 or 7 years, when hopefully the market settles, now are people, my concern would be people are now buried because they now have a loan through the county and a mortgage on a house that isn't valued at what it is, or it is stagnant.
I think our hope is to develop a more affordable model. And as I said, kind of grow in place, if you will. You know, our house we bought, doesn't matter what the price was back in 2018 or 1980. But we sold it for considerably more because of the additions we were able to put on as we needed them. Okay, so the concept is to invest in this. This model is being used, one of the closest ones is Sheboygan. A lot of us have heard of what they're doing in the Sheboygan County area. And it's the idea is to make it affordable so people stay here, are willing to stay here and work here. And in Sheboygan County, they're doing homes and they're trying to sell them for, they're about 1,400 or 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and they're selling them for $310,000. And they're saying they have 2,000 jobs that pay $30 an hour and do not require a high school diploma. Okay, that's a lot of competition for the 1,800 jobs we're trying to fill here. So the idea of revamping the way we look at housing in general, smaller lots, smaller homes, is a concept that's, you know, I'd like to say we invented it, but it's being used in multiple places across the United States successfully. This is the direction, right? This is what we grew up in. This is what people saw. And then we changed the housing design and plots became, you know, some subdivisions require acre lots. And I'm saying, oh no, much smaller, right? It's a model, it's something different. But how are we going to make housing affordable? Because when you have firefighters who want to come to town, we have new teachers coming to town, there's no rent, there's nothing here for them. There's no way they can live here. And that's a barrier to our growth and our stability here. So in talking to banks, they're familiar with the second mortgage. I will say, when I worked at ABOCAP, we had over $4 million in housing grants that were open. That ultimately loaned more than $25 million over the 20 years it was in operation. That revolving fund makes a difference, and it can be adjusted. Sheboygan requires that you live there 7 years. There's land trust. You can look at a land trust model that says you can't make what market's driving, and we're suggesting in this particular way we can adjust the down payment assistance to meet the needs of the time, and people. You know, they're going to say, okay, I want to live in this house for 10 years, and they're going to move on, and we're going to start that motion again of housing being sold. I mean, the average house in Winnebago County is on the market for less than 45 days. And like I said, we've all heard this statement, and I'm saying from the time they listed to the time they close. Okay, so those offers are coming in fast. But how many people do we, and each and every one of us knows somebody who's out there who said, I've been looking for a house for 2 years. And I make offers $10,000-$20,000 over asking price, and I don't get it. Banks are telling me people are coming in with those excellent and very good credit scores who are unable to secure housing. Well, if we don't get more people in the area, we're not going to be able to have economic growth. And that's That's what we're looking for, stability here. Who's gonna stay here? And like I said, the market, in the last 2 years, nobody could have predicted this. This is just upside down. It is just in a very bizarre way. So I'm intrigued by the idea of looking at it differently. And I think of my Cape Cod and I think of how this 800, 900 square foot house with the open concept, I will still, again, have 2 bedrooms, a bath, an eating kitchen and a living room with that open concept. And it'll meet my needs aesthetically, it'll meet my needs of having a modern new building house, but it'll also meet my needs as my family grows or as I get the funds that I can help improve the value of my house. And if we plumb and like I said, put egress windows in the basement, it'll make it easier for that to happen. I swear to God, if you watch a YouTube, you can do practically anything, right? So, I mean, people, if we do it, they will build it. This way, people will come and people young, especially young homeowners will be into it. I also say my husband and I live in a 4-bedroom house. We don't need a 4-bedroom house. We don't have kids anymore. Downsizing is not an option for me. Where will I go? What can I afford? What's going to be different? These are options for all of that. And I'm just saying, if we look at this, but I'm asking for a serious consideration of long-term investment in our communities by providing these funds for that purpose.
Excuse me, you're subsidizing the buyer, and if that you subsidize 40 or 50,000, that's 150 people that would benefit from the $6 million allocation of 20% of our spirit fund money. I was hoping for more of a universal application of the spirit fund money, and I also don't see where you're actually making the workforce housing more affordable. It would even be increasing the demand, which could possibly even push up those prices. The builders are still going to need their 8 to 12% gross. The subdividers are still going to need absorption rates and cost of infrastructure, sidewalks, sewer, water, laterals, streetlights, all the things they have to pay for. And the affordability is still an unsolvable issue when you look at 8% mortgages and building costs.
I think the math showed that if we could get it below what a 30% mortgage would be for a person making the income here in Winnebago County, with that down payment, it would be affordable. The idea of helping 150 households at a time, but the repayment allows us to then reinvest that dollars in the future.
Only on the pace of the repayment of the deferred payment, which would only be when they would sell the house, and then there'd be a 5 to 7 year period before that would replenish. If you rely on that map, so
yes,
again,
I agree.
But I still don't know how you push it. It doesn't address low income or workforce affordability.
It is workforce affordability. If you can buy $175,000
houses.
If your down payment makes the payment at $175,000, that's what they can afford. They can't afford the 210. Between their investment of 10%, you want skin in the game. And between an investment by the county of 40% or $40,000, that number is arbitrary, certainly up for negotiation, but it provides then it would be affordable by households making that. The other part of that is it'll get people out of rentals. So we have people who could be homeowners, but they're in rentals because they can't find home ownership. That opens it up for people who should be renters until they get to this point. It creates the motion back into the housing market that is stagnant right now. And I look at this as a long-term investment in all communities in the county. And I look at it as a long-term investment for the people now. I mean, there's a lot of us who aren't going to see the ultimate end result of this. I don't know that I'll be around for 20 years or 40 years to see this all happen. But it's the advantage of having that money for that purpose, because I can't imagine everything I'm reading is saying the housing market is going to stabilize, but not drop. Housing materials are going to stabilize, but they're not. Nobody's indicating it's going to drop. That's just not the way it's being talked about. This creating a whole different housing crisis and a housing bubble as it is right now, because there's just not enough housing for people. And some of the housing options that you have is, and part of the $6 million, although I'd love it all to be for down payment assistance, we're also talking about adding in, addressing the transitional housing options that we have and some of the other housing requests that you have out of those dollars. And we'd also be looking for contributions. Sheboygan was fortunate enough that they put ARPA money into this, and then they had 4 industries who stepped forward and each contributed $1.5 million to this fund. We have not approached all the companies in our agents in our county, but people who do work with them are telling me it's unlikely that we will get that deep of assistance from the employers. But it's an ask. It's part of the, how do we raise, how do we continue this? How do we add more houses to this? I have developers who are willing on a contract, you know, the sub-development of say 30 units or more, that they are willing to adjust their profit, knowing that they can produce them down the line. And that's what Sheboygan did too. I mean, it's, and I use that because it's the closest example, but this is also being done in Maine. This is also being done in Upper New York. This is also being done in Colorado. It's being done. It's usable, and it's not a flash in the pan. It's a long-term investment in your communities and in the people who live there.
Supervisor Burr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Point of clarification, if I might. You identified the Winnebago County request from Menasha, identified as number 50. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then, Chuck, I put that under Winnebago County. It did come from Menasha, but it was for the whole county. So I tagged it Winnebago County request from Menasha, if that helps. So that was my just clarification. So everybody understands.
During your presentation, which you just gave, and we certainly thank you for that, you're indicating a request of $3 million?
I'm asking for a minimum of 3.
This document states a 9.
The document, original application said 1 to 6 million. And I'm saying using 6 million for all affordable housing and this project. And I'm asking for a set aside of a minimum of $3 million for down payment assistance.
You're aware of the total amount we're looking at is $9 million?
I absolutely am aware. I know I'm asking for a hard ask. I know that.
1/3 of the total allotted.
I understand your point, but I look at this as a long-term investment in our communities.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Questions from Commission?
Do you have any spots picked out in Winnebago County to this point?
There are some communities that have identified areas that they would. Some already include infrastructure, some do not. The cities have looked at using TIF and other funding, internal funding for them to put the infrastructure in so that these would be usable areas. Sure. Yes.
Well, what was the cost of the tiny houses and how big are they?
Tiny houses, I was involved in that, so I can answer that pretty closely. They are 399 square feet because 400 was going to trigger something. I don't like to talk about the cost. I can talk to you about the fact that under construction, they were approximately $50,000 each. And I say that I don't want to talk about it because there's a substantial additional cost for the solar power that's being developed and being added onto that. If you've been by the tiny houses or have heard the spiel, you know that the concrete is exceptionally deep. We know the cost of concrete is not cheap, but because of that, they have solar power going through the sidewalks and the parking lot so that there's no smell removal there. That doesn't come cheap, just so you know, but it was an idea and that's part of what the developer wanted to explore, right? But the houses themselves, again, if you're not familiar with the tiny houses were built by the Amish in red granite. And then the insides were left to studs so that the subs could come in and put the heating and electrical plumbing all in. Heating is actually in-floor radiant heat. So they're anticipating some very long-term energy efficiency there. There's some alternative housing options. Interestingly, hemp is being used for housing for insulation as an example. STIPS is something I'm very familiar with, having done at AVOCAP. A little bit more on the upfront, but a shorter term in constructing the walls, and so there's savings there. But just about 50,000, I'm going to say, per house.
To that real quick, I would say, yeah. What's that?
The number is like way over $200,000
No.
per unit.
No, what I was gonna say is the 980 housing that we're doing, just from the sheriff's office is 600 square feet. The bids came in at 180,000 a piece on those. That's 600 square feet, very minimum ADA compliance, very small unit was roughly 180,000.
I think the total cost per unit, including the resource center and the center of the building,
course.
plus the additional cost of the, like I'm saying, the parking lot and the sidewalk, pretty crazy.
Well, subdivision need amenities, so that's the cost.
But that, like I said, I think that included that there's the center was over nearly 750,000 just for the building. So that was.
I do have a question, but more for Tom. And some of you may or may not know his background, but he also serves on the Economic Development Council for the Chamber, right?
The RDA.
And the RDA and 20 years in the banking industry. Is it your feeling too that the housing market will stabilize but not come back down? Is that hard? Is that
That's an opinion, but my background, I financed, started up here, 12 different subdivisions, Nature Trail, Hoffman Estates, Apple Hill, US Land, Bellhaven, Ball Prairie, Gray Goose, Short Reserve. And I mean, I've done like $500 million worth of financing or more. So it's, and half of these developers are now bankrupt because subdivisions don't cash flow. Now that absorption issue is, I think, resolved because there's a great demand for anything that's affordable, but the affordability, everybody I talk to is the 250 to 300 minimum for builder finishes, and it's just hard to get anything under $250,000 that anybody wants to live in. So that's why I picked on you for affordability. That's not a solvable issue. Certainly we can help with down payments. We can get municipalities to fund their own subdivision locations and infrastructure and relaxing some of the zoning requirements and sidewalks and lights and all the things that municipalities pick on the builders for. But we have bankers, subdividers, subcontractors, builders, and users. And you're going to help the end users, but there's still a whole tranche of people who need to get their 8 to 10% profit in a rising expense market with higher interest rates. So that's the challenge that we've thrown your lap.
And I do understand that, and as I said, it's interesting that this market is changing what developers are suggesting they need to make. I mean, they're willing to take less. They're buying into the concept of there has to be changes in housing. And like I said, Sheboygan model is looking at 1,400 square feet. Some of us might think for a 3-bedroom, that's small. We're suggesting that we start with a 2-bedroom at about 900 square feet and work ourselves up to a bigger house. It's a little bit twist on that concept, but the numbers are closer to being able to work out.
I work with bigger builders and they build bigger houses. 8% of 500,000 is better than 8% of 200,000. That's the same amount of work for them. So why build a small house from their opinion? So
it was interesting because I thought the same. And when I talked to one of the developers, he said, because he believes in this concept and he understands the need enough, he's made his money. He's willing to invest himself back into the community. So that's an impressive statement to me.
they aren't also altruistic.
Right.
Sorry.
I would say at the WCA conference, there's a lot of housing discussions, and one of the things there was a book. The author of the book called "The Poor Side of Town and Why We Need It." It was a very interesting read. There's a lot of good stuff. But it talked about after World War II, when all these troops came home, we built all these 700 square foot houses, and over time, as these families grew, these people added onto their house. But it allowed them an opportunity of something to get into to start building equity. And then as they build equity, they could add another space, or they could add another bedroom upstairs and what they do. And right now, the hard part is even getting people in the door to build the equity. And I think that is the part that has just skyrocketed.
We need George Bailey.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the idea that people are willing to move into that starter home that we all, like I said, 40 years ago, starter homes were a real thing. Now, everybody wants what they came from, right? They want the bigger, better. I shouldn't say everyone. There's a whole subgroup of people. And part of this task group is to do listening sessions and talk to people. But when I talked to a number of real estate agents, they're suggesting that there was plenty of buyers who would do this. People are buying lots in hopes that costs go down or they earn more money, but they're not building yet because they can't afford to. I mean, like I said, that's a lot of money. Yes.
In your opinion, are there enough tradespeople to build a substantial number?
Well, that is an interesting question. For many years, I operated a program at AVOCAP called the Fresh Start Program, which is training people to build houses while we worked on their lives. I will tell you, there's not a lot of people interested in the trades. Some of these houses, and this goes back to this style that we might look at as a more modular home. SIPS construction is something I'm very familiar with, and it's OSB board, then it's insulation, and then it's OSB board. It is not modular in the sense of a mobile home. It is more fireproof, it is soundproof, it is energy efficient. We actually built a house on Frederick Street here in Oshkosh when I worked at AVOCAP that was sold to a lower moderate income person. We built similar homes in Fond du Lac. The average cost for utilities was $100 on a budget. So it was affordable, sustainably affordable is the word I like to use. Do I feel that there's options with this? I feel that there are ways that we can tap some resources even locally in doing that. We have a very large correction group. I will start with them. They're always looking for an opportunity to give people who are institutionalized, giving them a working trade, giving them a livable income. There's a group of people. Some people who perhaps have been incarcerated are interested in that. But we all know that there's a need in the trades. It's a huge issue. But well, like I said, I've been talking to 2 different developers who have their own crew who said that knowing that they could build house side by side would be cost efficient, and they'd be happy to get engaged in this idea. They're comfortable. Do I know it can be mass produced across the United States? No.
I very much appreciate the presentation. We have another agenda that we have to get through. So before I cut you off or send you free, Supervisor Buck, you kind of live and breathe a little bit in the construction world, yes?
Yes, I guess I would say that it depends. The residential market is a tough market, and I guess I was going to ask Lou a question as far as local developers and local workforce. That unfortunately in the residential market right now, the developers may not be local, and the workforce may not be local. Or developers that you're working with or talking to right now, both a local developer and utilize a local workforce. Yes. I guess that question is pretty hard to answer, but I would say that in the last number of years, I think things have changed quite a bit with folks talking about the trades finally, and folks, being able to go in and talk to the guidance counselors about the benefits of being in the construction industry. But the residential industry is kind of a whole different animal. It's hard to compete in that space because a lot of the folks aren't offered health insurance, don't have a retirement plan, and often are competing with folks that misclassify their workforce as independent contractors, which makes responsible contractors now want to work in that subsector of the market. And that's a really ugly underbelly of the construction industry right now. And it's a lot in the multifamily residential housing. It would be very prevalent in the residential
Roofing.
all the finishing trade, but it's really ugly underbelly of the construction industry that's happening across the United States and right here in Northeast Wisconsin.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm sorry to point you out, but I just wanted to get that perspective.
Yep.
I always appreciate that. So in the essence of moving on this agenda, anybody have any other questions? Are we good? Good. Thank you very much. Sure. Right, moving on to number 4 now. Tom gave me the right agenda. That's the right one. Okay. Update discussion status on where municipalities stand regarding the $145,000 Spirit Fund distribution.
A email update went out 2 days ago regarding municipalities. Clayton, Nina, and Town of Amro all received $145,000 payment. 3 of the counties, Nakai, Utica, and Vinland are all having highway work done by the county. So they will get a payment to the highway department through Winnebago County to take care of their invoices for their road maintenance. I did receive information from never ask them.
I've been working with them on that topic.
I talked to them the other day. So they've gotten their paperwork in. I have not had time to review that. And I had one more come in this morning. I forget which one it was, but, we are moving forward and we are getting the payments out as we are getting the documentation.
All right, so for anybody in the back that had a hard time hearing that, because I know you faced the wrong way. A lot of things are moving forward. A lot of people are ready to receive their money. We made contact with the town of Nepiescum, sounds like, and we're on a good track. I know the village of Fox Crossing and the city of Oshkosh, we have talked to, they both are planning on doing that through their budget process.
Nope, Fox Crossing, yes. Oshkosh, no word whatsoever from them.
I think that was a conversation that I had with the city administrator.
No communication.
Right, city manager, yeah.
That's correct.
Right, so he is planning on doing it. He let me know he's planning on doing it through their budget process as well as the village of Fox Crossing.
John, Fox Crossing, the village.
Yep.
Is having a board meeting on Monday.
Yep.
And they will choose to bring it up at that point.
Sure.
They haven't scheduled anything in particular, whatever, yet for this.
From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's planning on allocating the 145 through the budget process. in
He's
Fox Crossing?
going Monday night.
Right.
For their board to get approval for the projects that they're going to submit.
Okay.
Paul was at the Towns Association last night and they explained this very well. I don't know if he pointed each one out that you didn't do it, but they more or less said, there's 145,000 out there that's, go ahead and get it. And he told them what they had to do and what to get it. So, I want to thank you, Paul, for doing that.
Yes, thank you for.
I wondered if you're gonna do that.
Yep. I told him you would invite. All right, any other questions on that? All right, moving on, discussion and action, possible action for the resolution approving the $250,000 from the Spirit Funds government identified projects, category to renovate the Amro area community center. So before you have a discussion, can I get a motion to get it on?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second.
All right, so motion from Supervisor Buck, second from Morris Supervisor Cox. Yeah, all right, and question?
Yes, I do. I'd like to put an amendment to this, at least to relate to the item on item 25 as it be resolved with the 250 from the Spirit Fund identified with community projects be approved to renovate the Amro area community center as long as, I'd like this added, as long as the OACC remains open to its mission to strengthen the lives of individuals, families, and the community. And I don't want them to change that mission and decide they're gonna dismiss part of the community from use of that community center.
Are you making a motion for that amendment?
Yes, I am.
With the second? All right.
Can you restate that?
Yeah, so a motion from Morris Cox, for an amendment, second by, Chuck Farris, Supervisor Farris.
The way I have it read, starting after community center on line 27, as long as the OACC remains open to its mission to strengthen the lives of the individuals, families, and the community.
All right, so now that is the motion of the floor. Is there any discussion on that amendment?
What if they don't, Supervisor Cox? Is there any, I mean, it's just kind of a friendly amendment, obviously, in there, but can they claw back this money? Can we claw back this money? And I'm not I think it's a good thing to have in there. I'm just,
So, you know, there is no such thing as friendly amendments.
no, I know that.
Right. Well, there'll be a vote on this.
And I was going to ask a question similar to that, not, I mean, in general, are we having? How do we keep the places accountable for the fund, that the funding is gonna be used the way it intended? How are we reporting out? How are they getting the money? I mean, I just wanna be super clear on, is it a reimbursement once receipts are produced? Is it a something? Because I don't want it to be back, Paul, where's our money? And our money isn't there.
This conversation has to be.
Well, but.
On the amendment, just.
Okay.
But can we add, well, and I would like to add to this, so I don't know if it's adding on to.
We'll try to take this one at a time.
That's exactly
Yep.
what I was gonna say, to avoid any confusion, do one amendment
At a time, okay, got it.
Right, so any further discussion on adding, as long as they stick, what was the phrase again?
As the OACC remains open to its mission to strengthen the lives of the individuals, families, and community. This money is going to be used as the resolution states, as long as the families, the individuals, and, you know, the mission statement stays the same.
Yeah,
All right.
maybe I would maybe, instead of remains open, would it be remains?
Remains.
Open
as-
to me sounds like, yeah,
As
we're
it
open to,
remains
yeah,
as its mission,
I like that.
okay?
or you could say loyal
Loyal,
to its mission,
Loyal to its mission, to say
Committed-
the same thing.
committed to its mission.
Committed to its mission, it's the same thing, yes.
So is he allowed to make a friendly amendment to change the line?
To change the word from open to committed or loyal, yes, he could.
All right, which you prefer, committed or loyal?
Committed.
If the second agrees, what they do.
Right. All right, if the second agrees, what you do,
Should we read it again?
please.
So on line 27, after community center state, as long as the OACC remains committed to its mission to strengthen the lives of individuals, families, and the community. Is that right?
Yes, that's good.
All right, any other discussion on that amendment? Hearing no other discussion of that amendment, we'll take a roll call on this.
Tom Egan,
Aye.
John Damo.
Aye.
Andy Buck,
Aye.
Maura Cox,
Aye.
Chuck Barry,
Aye.
Thomas Cole. Thomas Belter,
Aye.
Beth Oswald. Tim Gedley.
Yes. Aye. Thank you.
All right, now we're back to the original motion. Is there another amendment you would like to propose?
do I have to have the full words?
Yep,
I don't know, can there be discussion of it?
there can be discussion. Yeah, Mary Ann, thank you. You're coming up. So is there an idea of what you would like to have?
My idea stems from the conversations with 145 to the municipalities, just so there's no confusion. What are the parameters at which they get the funding, that
We were concerned about accountability. Is that
accountability on both, on the community centers and future other programs, and then also on the county. So there isn't we're waiting for our money, where's our money? Here are the things you have to do.
So based on that, a conversation, perhaps, and obviously this language is subject to any tweaking that you folks may want or deletion. You could say after line, well, after the amendment that Supervisor Cox just made, you could put, and now therefore be it resolved that upon completion Amro Area Community Center will submit supporting documentation to the Winnebago County Finance Director outlining the expenditures, or you could say to the ARPA Commission.
I would ask Director Kaiser, is there, is this language easy enough for you to get the, if this were passed as is it easy enough for you to get the money to this organization?
This is more of a follow-up of holding them responsible.
Okay.
So am I the one to do that, or am I, or is the commission? So basically, you pass the amendment for the money to be given out, it can be given out. It's not a reimbursement. It's a, here's the money, but then are you now holding them to make sure they spent the money according to how you gave them?
Okay.
That's an after.
Chairman?
On what, Mariana just said, I kind of disagree with that, because if they need this money to finish this project or get started with this project, they're gonna need some of this 250,000, and what you just read, they're gonna have to wait and then, well, that's what you kind of said. You gotta repeat it.
I will read it again. So if you see in front of you, line 25 says, the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that 250,000 from the Spirit Fund's government identified community projects be approved to renovate the Amro Area Community Center. And then say, upon completion, Amro Area Community Center will submit supporting documentation to the Winnebago County Finance Director outlining the expenses. So in other words, here's the money, and then you get the money, but you're obligated to show how you spent the money and if it was spent in the way you said it would be. So in other words, there's no clawback provision.
And it's not gonna come along, well, it's gotta be turned back in within 1 year or anything like that. They've got, as long as they're working on it.
We can work on, if you don't like upon completion,
That's fine, it's fine. I'm just saying, you're not gonna all of a sudden put a date on it. Like it has to be turned in and within a year or anything. I don't want any of these things written in afterwards.
like what a bank would do.
And I'm not sure if that's a fair statement. We just want to make sure that it's right, that we follow the law, that we follow the will of the board, and that we're able to hold somebody accountable if instead of spending the $250,000 to put up studs or whatever, they decide to buy a vehicle or something else. We want to make sure it's going to the process that we have, so there's a way to hold them accountable. That would do it.
Well, maybe you should put it before the finance director retires, so that he doesn't have to keep good enough notes for the next person.
Right.
What you're defining, it's actually a question, because it is not only pertinent to this resolution,
Right.
but future resolutions. So if you're adding it into a resolution, does that now become the policy we're going to require on all applications?
Well, I think that's a great point. I think that's the template that we're setting up here.
Just so it's uniform.
Right, correct.
I agree with the intent, but the effect of that needs to be uniform across all.
Well, you want to
Right.
set some conditions.
And right.
And then you want to be able to say the dollar amount in the back end of that sentence, so that you're covering the full dollar amount for the resolution.
And do we want to say some stuff, because this is a building cost, right? This is we're building something. So if that property were to be sold in the next 10 years, would we want that $250,000 back if it was sold?
Yeah.
That's a question that I have. Or is that too much? Paul, are we getting too much in the weeds here?
Yes,
Okay.
just to be simple,
Okay.
you're giving them money to be an ongoing concern. If they decide to do something different or backhanded.
I would rather have this conversation once than 72 times.
I would-
I really want to.
You hope they're not.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment that
Yep.
you can't just say Scouts honor that we're gonna spend this as is. That just doesn't. Or I don't feel that it does. I think that has to be identified in here that if there is something that goes on that the taxpayers are made whole by, somebody's decision to not follow this. I don't know how that looks, but I don't think you just leave it open and say, here's a check for, X amount, good luck.
Yeah, I agree with you, but that's kind of like that $145,000. It was, every one of us thought we were gonna have a $145,000 and all of a sudden all these little things come on. You gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, and I understand the accountant and all this and that, but all of a sudden this other come along. So now what are you going to put on this? And I think
I'd rather have it all be, and for the board too, to say, hey, we are gonna make sure that there are outcomes or there are indicators that this is and somebody's following. And two, if in year one of these building projects, the inflation now sells the building and they made a whole bunch of money and that just looks gross. But then how do we use that? Okay, if we're setting the template, what does that look like for things that are talking about programmatic? For like the Lou building, how does that look? Because that money is gonna go on for years.
To that point, I think that would be part of the program. That's if we did a $3 million, that would be separate. So to defend my finance director a little bit, a lot of that secondary paperwork came back so we could comply with the 8 rules that were in that resolution, right? And that's what I'm trying not to stick you with something like that again, and make sure that that this aligns with how we can facilitate this. At the same time, holding them accountable. I support the Amaro Community Center, and I think they do great work. And I believe that they're going to stick within their mission. But if something were to happen, they were to sell this property in the next 5 years. I mean, there's a timeline. Like if 10 years, if you do 10 years, I'm good. I don't need any further compliance for myself personally. Is that something we stick to it? I don't know what kind of amendment you're talking about. I don't know if that's too much.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna look at a template for these going forward.
And then we want to take a look at what is in the rules for ARPA. And number 3, clarifies eligible use of funds. Capital expenditures requires written justification for projects above $1 million cost. Okay, this is only 250, but it does have some sort of justification. And that justification should lie within the borders of what we're doing here.
So you'd like to make an amendment to say that there is, they show us proof on what they spent the money on. Yeah?
Yes.
If I was Paul, I would set up a 3-draw system with lien waivers on draw 1, draw 2, and draw 3. You, third lien waiver, and all the subcontractors have been paid, and you're acting as a title company and you're not, but still, you have a rule, you have lien waivers, and you have a completed project, and that, it shouldn't be too hard for you. But,
would be my butt.
Hire Tom as a consultant.
He's retired.
I mean, it's cheaper than. Did you administer that? Does that make sense? This is way above my pay grade, that's why.
I mean, I have not done liens, so I'd have to look into how to do that and talk to Mary Ann on that, but right now I don't have the knowledge of that. But
it's just a little,
right,
it's a one piece of paper, and then before he gets paid, he signs that he did it.
sign and you give it, right, and it's done. I realize on everything that we're doing, but if we're gonna do this for all of them,
Right.
that's a separate agenda item. That is not on this. This is just gonna have to be what's just on the.
Sure.
Yep, and that.
So you can't do the full thing.
Right, we just wanna make sure we get this right, and then we'll have a template to follow, right?
Right, if this is setting precedent
Right.
on what we have to do for, I wanna be cognizant of some of the other issues or other,
Yep.
yeah.
We're not doing lien waivers on them.
Right.
No.
Well, yeah, are you suggesting lien
No,
waivers?
no.
Well, every building project?
Somebody has to make
Right.
sure the money's spent.
I know, that's what I don't know.
I'd be
how
thinking
to
title company
word.
that would do it,
Sure.
so.
Wouldn't you want to have a layout some way or another of a written justification for what is going to be used or done to the building and what you're expecting to be done when the project is over with.
Personally, I think that was in the request.
It says that.
Right.
Here.
They do,
Should be.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And anyone who's in the middle of this, and initially there was give us the scope and there would be plans and all this stuff. And we reeled back for a moment to just give the scope of the projects because we were inundated with too much. So I think every single one of these that has a building project has those plans and we could get those in a moment, keep those on file, but then there'd be invoices and receipts that would track.
So as far as this resolution, yeah. Paul?
Do we currently have the plans from the community center on what?
I believe that we do. Oh, look, go ahead and talk. The Amro Center,
Community center owns it. It is their building.
so they purchased.
Paul, in your opinion, is an amendment needed for you to be able to ensure that it's for the discussion that you're hearing, is this a needed amendment for you to be able to hold it accountable?
Based on previous history, yes.
Okay.
Based on the $145,000 and 21 municipalities and the not laying out things in the resolution accordingly for the committee and the board. Yes, they believe before it comes out of this committee and goes to the board, it needs to be, we need a business, we need a plan, whether we have them or not. We need we're gonna have progress billings or liens or so and make payments accordingly as you, the progress billings is another way of doing it, where once you hit a certain step, we'll send you money, or we'll give you money, and then we'll give you money after the project so far. If we do it ahead of time, advance payment goes to reimbursement, and then the completion showing me all the receipts of what was done.
Yeah,
I mean, I think them are the steps that kind of need to be fine tuned before it goes to the board. Or the board's gonna have a lot of questions.
and I would agree this commission, if this was passed by us and then by the board, we would want the money just to get out, right?
That's my feelings. I think that's what they've been waiting for.
Right. Yep.
So money dispersed, and then once the 250,000 is dispersed, an obligation to provide backup documentation as to how they spent the 250,000. Is that correct?
In essence.
Well, in essence, but Tom was talking lean, I'm talking progress billings, where we will give you upfront 1/3 of the money. And then once you satisfy, okay, there's certain steps in a construction plan. Oh, we'll give you money here, and once you hit this step, we'll give you more, and then we'll give you more. I don't want to have it be a reimbursement. I'd rather have it be an advance, but not the full 250 right away. I don't know. It's up to the commission. If you want to get the 250 right away, I'm okay with that too. I'll just ask for receipts after the project's done to allow less work on my part.
Well, that's what I was saying. And I agree with the latter too.
Is
I
the board
want to make this easier.
Is the board gonna have an issue with, well, what happens if you don't get your receipt? That's law back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying to make sure that we cover everything, so this doesn't keep getting bounced
Right,
back.
and I think that's the amendment to be made. So if there's language to say that we're gonna give it up front, require documentations. If your documentations isn't satisfied, that there's a clawback ability.
You can do that. But now the question is, what about time frame? How much time do you give the people who are receiving the money to provide the documentation and complete the project?
I have an opinion.
Right.
Yes, please,
Can I give you some synopsis of what's going on?
please.
Okay. We bought the building in April, and we actually did the underground plumbing, paid for it out of my general checking. That part is paid for.
I recently wrote a check for the materials to frame in the inside of the building through the firewall. We're waiting on supplies. That will not be in until the end of October. So we've spent a lot of money. I paid for the architect. I paid for the state fees. I paid for the building permit. We've spent approximately $30,000 to $40,000 out of the monies that we've raised already. So if you're telling me that we have to prove what we're spending before we get the money, then we're back behind the rock again.
No, that's, no, we're saying, I think, right. We're gonna, we would disperse the money if everything passed, and then you just have to prove what you spent the money on.
Because I've spent a lot of money, right?
Right.
But our project, from what my contractor is telling me, although I'd like to be in before Christmas, he's crazy, is going to be mid to late February. I've got everybody lined up. It's just, we're waiting for funds. And in the meantime, we're fundraising like crazy.
So, December 31st of 2026?
Save your receipts.
Oh, believe me, I've got to file this thing.
Or what if it's within 6 months of completion, it needs to be in? Because I mean, there, December 20, as long as we spend it by December 26th.
31st, December 31st of
Of
2026.
26 is what I meant.
Yep.
But construction, who knows? It could go on, you know, if it goes on past that. So I hate to have the documentation have a date, if that's at all possible, but is it something like within 6 months of completion of a project? Receipts have to be in, or?
And then what's completion?
And with
Well, I know.
materials and supply chain issues, maybe we just say 5 years of, we give 5 years. I don't know. Does that seem ridiculous? Is that crazy, Paul?
All you're gonna stick around?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna keep you.
Depends if I hit the 1.4 million.
Right.
Billion. I mean, I'm hearing February.
Right.
So in this case.
Right.
I back to what Beth said, is 6 months after completion, or project completion.
6 months after project completion.
And slash not to exceed 5 years.
Okay.
I don't know.
I like
You
that.
gotta have some
Yeah.
deadline.
Yep. I like
You know, 5 years is 5 years. If you can't get a product of in 5 years, or building, unless it's.
All Andy.
Not to exceed 5 years from completion.
6 months from completion
6
or
months
5
after
years.
project completion, not to exceed 5 years
From date of disbursement.
from date of disbursement.
All right. And
This is a
So-
fine line.
so
No,
Okay, so let me read this back.
before Beth has the, before Beth makes it a motion here, let's read where we're at so far.
So, upon completion, the Amarillo Area Community Center will submit supporting documentation to the Winnebago County Finance Director outlining the expenditures. The submission will occur 5 months after project completion, not to exceed 5 years from date of disbursement.
6 months.
I think it was 6 months after completion.
After 6 months after project completion, not to exceed 5 years from date of disbursement.
Any changes before you want to make an amendment? Make an amendment for
That
it?
satisfies what I was hoping to accomplish.
Okay.
Does that still create a precedent for any resolutions going forward?
No, it
It
does
does
not.
not. Okay,
It gives
that's all
us
I
a
wanted to
template.
make sure.
Yep,
Okay.
it's a template to address it, and Paul, you're comfortable with that?
A lot of them are gonna be hopefully a lot sooner.
Will actually be just for this one right now.
Correct.
Just
Right.
template, but
That's right, yep. So would you like to make a motion then?
Do I have to say it, or can I have?
Yeah,
Mary Ann?
you could just-
I would like to,
Second.
I would, for the second amendment, to have the way Mary Ann stated.
Starting on line 28 and 29. Upon completion, the Amarillo Area Community Center will submit supporting documentation to the Winnebago County Finance Director outlining the expenditures. The documentation will be submitted 6 months after project completion, not to exceed 5 years from date of disbursement.
Within 6 months, within 6 months.
Within 6 months. Okay.
I just wanted this T in line with the T, you know. It's director of finance, not.
Okay, yep. All right, do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
All right,
Morris already seconded it.
where did you second it?
Yep.
I just didn't hear you, I apologize. All right, any discussion on that amendment? All right, well, I'd like to do a roll call vote on amendment.
Egan.
Aye.
Demo.
Aye.
Buck.
Aye.
Cox.
Aye.
Quarry.
Aye.
Belter.
Aye.
Oswald. Aye. Galloway.
Aye.
All right, any other further discussion on this resolution as a whole? Yeah.
I've been trying to think of the gotcha here. And I go back to Supervisor Cox's original one. So long as Amro stays true to their mission. You can be true to your mission until you get all your money, and then afterwards you can make an into a bingo. Just saying.
I hear you. I think a certain amount comes down to trust.
Yeah.
I think it goes both ways. Community to government, government to community. And I think that's up for the board to decide.
So I'd like to, as we think about this as setting the template, maybe for future ones, we just keep that in the back of our minds.
Correct. Any other discussion on this?
But when you turn it into a bingo hall, I'll be there.
No bingo.
All right, since this motion is currently on the floor with the 2 passed amendments, correct? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Egan.
Aye.
Demo.
Aye.
Buck.
Aye.
Cox.
Aye.
Quarry.
Aye.
Belter.
Aye.
Oswald. Aye. Galloway.
Okay, that passes unanimously. All right. Going on to item 6. What we're on?
Put all our names on the bottom of the doggone resolution.
I get a what?
Put all our names on the bottom of the resolution to the board.
That would just be the ARPA commission. Yeah.
And this will be addressed at the October meeting.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
yes, there's only one person in the room that can guarantee that.
Chair of the county board, who's sitting right there.
He said yes.
If you have it written right, ready to go.
Yep. All right, I appreciate everybody taking your time on that. That was good. All right, so 6, discussing possible action on continue prioritizing and selecting projects and spirit funding. Yes.
If I might, now that we're getting into this discussion item, I think it's becoming necessary that the committee be given a declining chart of expenditures from the original $9 million or whatever that number is. Because as we go forward, we're going to need to know how much money's left. And I'm starting to see a lot of numbers come in here, so if they could prepare that, that would be great. Is there a way we can do that, Cassie, or?
I would assume once we get through the first blush of getting through them all, we'll have another document, right?
Well, I'm thinking we need to have something as we approve each one,
Well, so
because you're gonna get into a pick and choose situation, and you're only gonna have 3 million left, or as an example, whatever that might be.
So the conversation keeps going, we have to get money out, we have to prove, but then what happens if something really good is at the bottom and we don't get to it? So the intent with this would be Kathy would bring up the spreadsheet that you have, and I have it added up in the columns, which is why you saw only 1 million when it was 1 to 6, because I can't have 1 to 6, it won't add up. So I just put 1 million for the stuff that we were talking about. So my proposal is that we just go line by line, and what would be the maximum amount you feel this project should be, and what would be the minimum amount that this project should be funded at. And then we go to the bottom and see where we're at. And then we just keep working back and until we have basically, here are all the things at least that we feel comfortable that where we see the money should be going. And then we can pull out the projects so that we have our own list of projects that we initially recommend.
You have a range that stuff,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna pull out. as you
And
go.
move around.
Well, as an example, on the agenda, we have approval of funding for the Winnebago County Fire Chiefs Association. That's
I
over
know.
$3 million.
Yeah, and I have that on here.
If that is approved, you're down to somewhere around, what, maybe 5-6 million?
And if I could, me and Tom as co-chairs talked about this a little bit, and one of the reasons why the Amarillo Area Community Center resolution came back to this committee is when we think of action, we will direct Corporation Council to draft a resolution to come back to the next meeting, so we have the exact wording and we know exactly what we're gonna pass. So the discussion of possible action today, if there's possible action, I would see that as directing them to bring a resolution for us to look at and then pass at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Right, but I think where Supervisor Farr is coming from,
Correct.
if we are actually looking at them radios,
Right.
if we are,
You
we
should
know
how much
already that's gonna wipe that much out, so we know how much we got left to be.
Right.
You're not keeping a running track
Well,
of your
we
balance.
are,
Yep.
Right.
this will keep a running track, because right now there's 250 on there in the minimum amount column. So right now, if everything that last time we had talked about, I pulled out all of the items that we talked about declining. No, we don't feel that's right to fund, or that, okay, we're gonna take this out because it's more of a county. So right now, we're at 16.6 with that 3.2 for the radio. So I do have another line for other potential initiatives. If there was something else, I mean, these were just what came in from the community, so.
So are you
So wait,
saying that 16 million, when you add all these requests
If-
up,
Yes,
and actually we only have 9 to start with,
right.
so we're 7 million over. We just approved 250,000, and we could approve another 3 million.
Mhm.
So I'm looking for a declining balance
Right.
from the 9
But
million.
this is 16 million if everybody would get funded at face value.
Well,
I guess to make
it allows me to pick and choose a little better if I know there's only so much
Right.
left.
And if I could real quick, every single meeting, we will bring that number of where we're at. And I think that could be a standing directive from here on out. We
Yeah,
will
that would
have,
help.
right,
That would
Yep.
help, yeah,
Okay.
sure.
all right. So getting back to this,
Yeah, we can just keep.
yep, we'll just keep
This exact same
continuing
thing
the
and
work
you'll see at the bottom.
of where we paused from last time, right? Okay.
Pretty much, run a check.
So where do we,
So.
I'm gonna hand it back to you because I don't remember exactly where we left off last time.
We determined ones that we felt were not a fit. So those I wrote decline in red in that one column on the left-hand side. And I figured we'd just go down the line. We can cross-reference with the answers to the question. That's why I want to make sure that you had all of that right away, so. The first one on the list is Fox Cities Habitat for Humanity.
Greater Fox Cities.
Greater, sorry, yes, thank you. Greater Fox Cities Area Habitat for Humanity, the requested amount was 500,000. That was for 10, building up to 10 properties.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, would it be easier to break them out into categories? In other words, municipal requests and then nonprofit? Requests from nonprofits go to that list first. Make a determination and then go
That
back to
is-
the municipality.
That is how it is broken out. The top half is all, the nonprofits, and then the bottom half. Starting at the second page, 48. Mhm. So would you prefer to start with the municipalities?
No, I was just asking, they will break them out in.
Yeah, I did keep them separate. But I kept one collective running total because it's all, so.
I just want to clarify something, and I know somehow this word nonprofit is like burned into our
Yeah.
mind. The category is not nonprofit. It is either county government projects or community identified, or I should say community identified, government identified community projects.
My mistake.
That's all right. I just very, nonprofit is not there. It's government identified community projects. Thank you.
Pardon me, I rephrased government identified community projects, separating that from municipal requests.
But you don't want to do one, then the other.
Well, because we haven't determined, it all comes out of that one, that 9.6
Right.
million, whether it's municipal or an organization, so.
Just help us
Yes.
make determination.
Before we get started, I have a commitment in Madison. I have 5 minutes here in this room, so I want to make a comment on these municipal projects. When I went through everything in here, I thought these spirit fund were once in a lifetime project. So I use the but-for clause when I look at all of these, which means is the roundabout, for instance, on Highway 21 in Leonard Point, going to happen whether we give it ARPA money or not? Well, yes, it will. So it'll either be put in the budget this year, next year, the year after. Much of this stuff, a recycling truck, a glass, it's projects that will be part of the CIP either this year, next year, the year after. It's standard cost of operating your county entity. So, and I didn't know that all the entities had similar approaches to their philosophy of asking for money. If they wanted to replace money so they didn't have to spend on CIP, would they then lower their tax burden because they got money from ARPA? You know, no and no. So I just think we should be more cognizant of what kinds of projects these municipal projects are and whether they would happen with or without this artificial bump of money from Spirit Fund.
And I would dovetail on that a little bit. Every township and municipality and city, village, much like the county, also got ARPA dollars. They also got shared revenue. They also have the $145,000 we gave to everybody on priorities for them to spend it on. A lot of these things I would simply be against because it's not really our role for that. Some of the things I think what we heard out of Winnebago was a county park that we had that we gave to them. Maybe that's a different way to look at it. And I struggle on some of that stuff, even though that I know I probably have a little bit more empathy for towns. And I'm not saying that just because you're a towns guy, just because I know the levy of what towns, the revenue that you have to work with is so minute.
Tax bases.
Tax base, right? So when you have to buy a fire truck,
It's a big deal.
it's a huge deal, right? And it's a little different.
Johnny, it's either it's a want or it's a need.
Correct.
If it isn't a need, it's just a want. You kind of put that to the back of the page. You don't add it in there right away.
Before time goes, can we just kind of agree on a date if we're gonna have another date here?
Yeah.
In October or whatever, I know Cassie.
Yeah, good idea.
We were gonna do it, but everybody's.
Mary Ann, can I put a pause on item 6 and go to 8 and then reconsider 6?
Yes.
I can do that?
Yeah, you're just gonna make a motion to amend the agenda to put 8 ahead of 6.
All right, I'd like to make a motion, e- even though we took up item 6 already?
Sure, agenda.
It's my agenda, all right, so I'm gonna take a motion, make a motion to move, 6, or 8 above 6. Second, all those in favor? Aye, all right, meeting date?
I don't think what days you picked, it don't matter, because I had 3 meetings today, so it don't matter if some have 2 or whatever they have.
That's right.
Well, do we want another one this month yet? That's the question, right? I assume that would be, but we got budgets coming up.
We have budget coming up, right, and staff is pretty,
I could anticipate us going through this today and not being quite ready to draft a resolution for any of these, but at least have the parameter. These are the ones that we want to look at. Then I could even go back and say, do you have plans like the AMRA commit? So I could come back and then we could. So, but I know everybody wants to rush, but I also want to
Correct.
make sure we're doing this right and not rush and just throw it to the supervisors.
Well, we'll discuss the resolution.
Absolutely.
how does Thursday, November 9th look?
November 9th?
Yeah.
No more in October?
Well, again, budget's coming up and,
That's towards the end.
It's
I
good.
mean, we could try the 20th, that's gonna be.
Well, yeah, we're.
Twentieth, what, twentieth of
October, yeah.
Friday the 20th.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's a quick turnaround.
I think that's
Either that or the 30th.
Budget.
Say that, I mean, we're gonna be going over these projects again, and it takes a long time to go through there, and you know, we wanna get this money out as soon as possible, and you know, dragging our feet is not gonna do anything. You know, I would say as soon as everybody's available, I think we try to shoot for that, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
20th, right, open, Kathy?
The 20th is open here. Yes.
Come up here.
Right, yep.
You'll have to have all your homework done then.
Might be.
Right, you might be able to attend via Zoom.
Maybe in Boston.
Maybe in Boston.
October 20th.
The big thing is that which you always present to us, so.
October 20th.
At 1 o'clock.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
Well, all right, thank you, yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
And I could see the 20th then just being, I mean, unless there's anything else pertinent, we can just do all that. And really it's just continue line by line.
I guess,
I would hope.
yes.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we also amend the agenda and take care of item. The elephant in the room, and it's not referring to gentlemen in particular. The elephant in the room is taking care of this radio
Oh,
issue,
hearing the-
because the rest is the rest.
Mhm.
So.
I would second that.
You wanna move that up? Well, the question is, do we move that up before we prioritize a little bit more? Or remove a little bit less of, I mean, does that make it easier or does that make it harder?
I would say I don't wanna waste anybody's time, and these folks are here to hear about
Right.
this, and
I'll make a motion to move 7 above 6.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, as we get going on this, Adam, I'd like to bring you up. So I had my administrative assistant, work along with Chief Sweeney, and others to get some information around. Were you able to get that to Cassie yet, so we can post it after this meeting? Get it out?
Yep, I believe there's some information in the packet and the latest.
Yep.
That was this, you want to pass that out? That Ethan had put in the folder.
And we have some extras for the room too. And this is just, I wanted to show what Winnebago County got for ARPA for new shared revenue first, and then across all the towns, what everybody got for their revenue. So we can kind of see, what each municipality got. And just a reminder, new shared revenue is ongoing from the state, that will also grow the sales tax over the years. So hopefully, if we fund something with radios, here, and I would ask, municipalities and towns to say, if 10 years ago we said we're gonna do this once and never again, to maybe look at the shared revenue as a source to put away for radios in the future.
Now agree with you wholeheartedly, but the county was gonna put away so much.
Correct.
In here too, to do their radios.
Yep. Our plan was just to do it in the CIP. Right. All right. So. As chairman running the meeting, I don't want to start off this discussion between, yeah, if you would, please.
All right, I'll start the discussion off with these radios. You wanna go ahead then, co-chair, and you don't want to say anything right away?
I don't want to say anything right away.
Okay, anyone else have anything to say on these radios before we go into it any farther? Mr. Buck.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we talking, are these the Motorola radios that we were talking about? And then what the gentleman from Nielsen said, is this the same issue?
Just the radios, all we're looking at, we're not saying who, what, when, where. These gentlemen went ahead and are saying Motorola's is what they looked into.
Yeah.
So that's the only prices you have right now, you see the prices.
Okay.
Yeah, if we make an action on this, it's gonna be direction for them to draft a resolution for us to consider on the 20th.
And is this concerning just the Fire Chiefs Association radios, no one else's radios?
Well,
Just all the list of radios right there from what I.
whole list of radios, yeah.
Did we not already do something for the sheriff?
They're not included in this.
Supervisor Farley.
Several questions. First of all, I have two documents listing two different amounts of funding. This is from the initial documents I'm told that were submitted, and that funding is 1,230,000. The current one before us is 3,265,000. And when I had a discussion prior to the meeting, this one is correct, the lower one. Was that it doesn't include, should I use the word accessories? So the radios themselves are a little over 1,200,000. If you add in the accessories, you bring it up over 3 million. So I guess we need to distinguish between the two. In addition to that, I have here a request from the city of Oshkosh for 6 radios and 1 BVRS. It was my understanding that the city of Oshkosh funded their radios already and they have been purchased. So I question if indeed that is the case. Why are they requesting more radios?
If I may,
On top of
what I directed my staff to do was to reach out to Chief Sweetie to take a look at everybody's radio requests instead of looking at all these separately, figure out what it is together. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd ask you to come up to the podium. Would you be comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
You could help us kind of direct that.
Yeah.
And then, and if anybody would like to ask a question, Adam would kind of help put some things together too.
Okay,
Feel
sure.
free.
Nice to meet you, Adam. Nice to meet you.
Now continue your question, Supervisor Farley.
Well, I draw a note that if the city of Osh, because our premise was initially, as I recall, to furnish radios to those municipalities who don't already have them. If they did get the radios, it probably was paid for with the ARPA funds that municipality received. In the case of Oshkosh, it's over 20 million, I So when I get the request and breakdown of radios per municipality or fire district, that includes the city of Oshkosh at a cost of $93,901. If they already have their radios, why are they requesting more?
So I can't answer why. All I can answer is I was asked to go to the departments and ask them what they needed, which is my direction, and they responded to me and said they needed 8 of them. My guess is they bought I know they bought all new radios. My guess is they bought all new radios minus some of them. I don't know that. That's a guess. That's a question I would have put to Chief Stanley. He just emailed me and said.
Well, I certainly will be concerned about spending money and allocating funds to municipalities that already have it. I'm starting to be a little suspicious of whether the motive behind that.
Agreed, and, you're gonna.
Go ahead and answer, and then I'll throw one more bit of information that I've learned.
And I guess the question of the podium that I would have, instead of us sitting here and arguing amongst who gets what. If we were to propose to you that we will give you an X amount of sum of money and being as, what is your role amongst all the departments, the chiefs, I guess?
That's interesting. Chief Harbison was the county chief's vice president before.
Okay.
He is retired.
Okay.
I just picked this up because I inherited it when I became chief.
Uh-huh.
So I am on the county chiefs, but I'm not the president or anything.
And the county chiefs, you guys get together, do you have a group where you get together regularly?
Yeah.
All right?
Yes.
And do you guys decide things as a group?
Absolutely.
Would it be a reasonable thing for us to figure out an amount of money we'd be comfortable with radios? To allocate to your group to decide how to split it up amongst all of you? I guess my question is this something that you could figure out for us or something, so that we don't have to sit here and try to figure out which goes where, and does that make sense? I mean,
Well,
Tom,
I'm
does that
listening.
make sense to you?
I don't know.
No, it don't make sense to me because someone's going to get shorted and someone's,
Yeah.
our township, and that's got some of the most radios, and I'm not saying it just for that township, because we got Armrow, Rushford, and the town of Armrow. So there's like 3 fire departments with all kinds of, and we're all volunteers them there. So, and then you got some other ones that don't have hardly any, they've only got a handful of them. So why should that be? Why should they all say, if he's gotta go and divide them up, then you're gonna say, now you go ahead and divide it up. Your office, everybody else is gonna be off. I'll give you I don't care, we'll say $50,000. It's your responsibility, chief. Now you go and divide it up. Is that fair on him?
Do we have any town
Yeah.
firefighters here? Are there any firefighters here from the townships? Yep. Can I ask your opinion on that? Do you feel the same, I guess?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that the concern?
I don't know. If putting it on us, going back to the fire chief's meeting, if we could really, I guess, divvy it up. I think you're gonna end up asking for less radios and this guy wanted to ask for, let's say, 20 or so, and now he's like, well, maybe I can only do it 10. I think it's just gonna be harder to do that.
Why do we not have?
I'm simply asking questions right now, so hold on one second, please. So it would be burdensome, and you don't know if it would be spread to where the need is, I guess?
Yeah,
I'm not trying to put anybody in a tough spot here, that's not my.
be kind of hard to divvy that up.
It'd be kind of hard.
I'm trying to think how we would go about that.
So to Supervisor Farr, to your original question, the amount of radios needed is 1 point some million, right? It's not the 3 point.
Yeah, and when they submitted the documents, it really draw a very vivid difference between the first document and the second, exceeding $2 million. So if it's for additional equipment or whatever, I certainly accept that. But I just draw the point to everyone that apparently these accessories, whatever they might be, are very expensive. In addition to that, I draw the point that we have the city of Oshkosh requesting radios when we've been told, at least I have multiple times, they already got their radios. So I certainly would not support adding more radios to something they already have. that doesn't mean I won't support the motion or resolution to approve, but I would support it at a number of 3,172,000. That excludes the city budget, I'll be
I
frank.
just wanted to ask, I don't know, Supervisor Nelson, are you on the fire department or?
Put in 20 years, but I'm not on it.
Well, you might add, yeah, on that point, I don't see Winnie County on here requesting.
Fine with that?
Yeah, why aren't you?
Hold on, Adam.
Yeah, no worries. So, thank you, Chief Sweeney, because what we did is ask for all of the, Chief Sweeney to reach out and ask who has a need for this, and these are the responses that we received. So Winnebago had recently.
I did receive one from Winnebago, so I don't want to confuse you that they didn't get back to me. They did, and they said they were not interested.
They didn't need them, because they obviously purchased them already.
They didn't need them, I think.
Figure it out.
That was the assumption.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing that I learned that was interesting is, so we were saying radios, but really that's on the order, it's a very complicated order. And so there's essentially three primary pieces of equipment that they're looking at here. Portables, which are worn on, mobiles, which go in the vehicle, and then the DVR or DVRS, which is sort of the, trunk, is that?
Kind of a repeater for in the larger facilities where you don't get reception, that is in the engine or a vehicle outside, you fire it up and it repeats into the building.
And on that, the repeater, so like the Amro Rushford asked for one of those, so you go out and it's almost like a mobile booster, like antenna? Okay. So if something happens, you can put this out in an area and it allows everybody to
Yeah,
communicate.
in our department, we put it out on all of our larger facilities, we fire it up right away, it's on our engine, first out engine, so. It's just dependent on the department's policies, I guess.
Two of those completely in the request, right? One for.
Right.
There's several of them out there. We have two of them on our department right now, but they're fine and they don't need to be.
But in this request,
I'm not sure about that, but I think there's two yet.
One of those was on us,
one of those is on Oshkosh as well, one of those is.
which I,
Supervisor, I'm sorry, yeah, Supervisor Nelson.
Not interrupting, but Dad, I believe, not 100%, but I believe Winnie County went with the Nissan radios. That's where.
Okay.
That was radios.
Nielsen radio.
oh, okay.
Yeah, Supervisor Buck, sorry, I didn't.
I don't necessarily know if it's appropriate for us to be picking winners and losers here. We don't know, right? These are the folks that have the expertise. And I don't know if what Supervisor Farley is getting at is excluding a municipality. I don't feel comfortable sitting here doing that if they're not here to talk about, you said you had heard that they already got radios. Well, if your intent is to say, I'm not gonna vote for that, or I want to make an amendment to exclude that, I think it's unfair at this time when that group is not represented here to address that issue.
Valid point.
So.
Like Regs, they are being represented by him, because that's where he got the information from, so that's their representative. No, I'm saying that's
Sure.
their representative as of right now.
The trade group, if you would.
And yeah, I don't, with all the information that you provided, I don't feel like I don't want to vote on this because I don't feel like I have enough information to make an informed decision other than here is a chunk of money, you determine, I mean, I would feel more comfortable with that because I don't.
Why are
Sorry, I yield.
Okay.
Why are we determined without a count? Without assured the count is right, why are we determining money to begin with? We should know the count and then add the money up for the count. Get the count.
The count of radios, you mean?
The count of radios, the DVRs, or whatever else they're putting in.
It's there.
Yeah, that's the document.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah, we do have a count, and so the challenge became when, so we were able to get the count of the radios themselves, portables, mobiles, DVRs, or DVRS, and then in that price is also all of those accessories that the different departments all said, these are the accessories we want, so many of this type, so many of that type. And I say accessories, not like cell phone cases, but like things that attach into different vehicles or other earpieces and microphones.
Microphones, each radio has a microphone, you have to, when you go into a fire, you have to.
Understood, but Charles brings up a point that Oshkosh apparently he knows that Oshkosh said they had them already. That means there's a DVRS that is sitting in Oshkosh, which probably could go to one of the other towns, since you need to have a spread on that and be able to post an alternate for that. And you need to have, we're paying for 6 that we don't need to pay for. I mean, the count is not right.
That's hearsay.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
But they didn't feel any better about voting for it.
And who's gonna go over there in the fire stations and count them radios and say, this is how many you need?
That's what I
what he
mean.
went to, he
Right.
went and
I
asked each
can't go
one.
to all the
None
departments.
of them are supposed to be fabricated. This is exactly what they
I
have.
guess I relied on that.
They shouldn't get 1 or 2 or 5 more. This is what they had, and they can replace it. That's what that count is.
Yeah, and I would say furthermore, if you go through this list and you're picking on Oshkosh, they've got $34,000 in a municipality that's 70,000 people compared to Needham and Ashe, that's $361,000. So if you're gonna, pick on them, I don't think they're necessarily, gouging the taxpayers on that.
I'm not picking on anybody. I'm simply trying to be assured that the municipality is correctly asking for the qualification and the purpose of providing funding when it might not be accurate.
And one of the,
I'm sorry. So if they didn't buy the radios, I'm happy to hear feedback here. But I believe it was actually published in the paper, so if that's the case. If that is the case, the logical question is, why are you asking for additional radios from Winnebago County funding system when the other municipalities haven't bought any at all?
Oshkosh could have been maybe gonna put in these new ambulance that they're gonna get. Maybe they need some radios in there.
Well, I'm sure you're gonna pay for that.
Definitely support that, but I know that's not on topic. That's where the radios would go.
I know that.
Being an employee at Oshkosh, I don't know for sure without talking to Chief Stanley or us figuring that out. With Station 14 covering the airport, they could have those 6 radios allocated for that station. Along with that DVRS, but
Phone to get them
only has them.
which weren't initially
Correct. They might have got it for the rest of the.
that would be an exception.
That
Yeah,
would
most
certainly be
certainly.
the case.
Perhaps we need to get this clarified.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and, and I understand Supervisor Buckley, you're saying, especially as a resident of Oshkosh. But I think that's why this document is important. I mean, Oshkosh did get $20 million in ARPA funds. Town of Amro got 240,000. Shared revenue for the town of Amro was 69,000. Shared revenue for Oshkosh is 1.9 million. That being said, we gave everybody, the city of Oshkosh got more shared revenue than the county did. That being said, everybody got $145,000. And nobody, not a single town said that we're gonna, well, I don't know, maybe I should, was any allocated toward radios? Not yet, right. So nobody said radios, but a few did say fire trucks. So they made that as kind of a priority. But when I look at this and I look at what the city of Oshkosh had to work with some of these townships work together, when I add up town of Amro and city of Amro and town of Rushford, that's the fire, they're not districts. What is it called?
Fire district.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. What is
The beats,
Fire beats?
That's what's on the
It's a
map.
new word. I learned that. I always learn something new every week about government. Fire beats is what they're called. I mean, that's not a lot of this revenue that they had to say, okay, we could spend $6,000 on a radio. It was harder for them to do that. The city of Oshkosh, as much as I appreciate it, it was easier for them to say $6,000 for a radio when we have this revenue to work with. So I can understand it's harder for some of those smaller beats, if you would, to make that as a priority when they're up against a whole bunch of other things.
I want to apologize to my esteemed commissioners for making that motion because I thought it would be easier to take the elephant off the table so we could divide up the rest.
No, I agree.
I do too, yeah.
I totally agree. We need, and this is just the fire department. We're not talking about any police departments and did any of these municipalities, because I'm not part of any of the boards, were they accruing and have funds in their accounts? Because everyone knows from what I've been told that these things are dead after 10 years. They're obsolete, they're whatever. So were people accruing things, and do towns and villages and cities have money set aside to fund the radios? And this is just, oh, now you get the rest of that money too, because you've been accruing it.
Right.
Were they asleep at the switch and we're not putting money aside? That's a question if anyone can answer.
I can answer on our booth.
Yeah.
Anyways, we were not putting anything aside. We ordered a brand new fire truck. $600 and some thousand. It's gone up to $900 and some thousand if we went to, and then we still haven't got it. So there's none being put aside for any of these things.
From the same, I believe most of them are probably in that boat planning on.
Right.
CIP,
So-
like the county, like you said.
Yep. Everything we can get from any place we're looking for.
Yeah.
Unlike private industry, I just want to point out, I'm used to accruing to build up for something. In the government, you have a capital project and then you pay for it.
Right.
So you're not allowed to technically accrue in the government. That's frowned on. You have an expenditure and then you have a capital project that you then borrow and pay for with a set general fund.
We tax you later instead of tax you up front. And that's a better way to say it. Another thing I would say is the $3 million, we did get a quote from Nielsen. It was significantly cheaper, and I know maybe the Motorola is what you want versus what you need. And I know we want to get moving forward with stuff getting out of this ARPA commission and get some of these dollars spent. It's just a big chunk, and if you're gonna ask me to kind of pick and choose between where those are, I'm not comfortable passing or directing a resolution for $3.2 million right now. That's just not where I'm at.
Without knowing at least the count.
Marshall keeps saying that. How can you get a better count than what you had?
Yeah, you have the count.
You had the count from him. What better count? You're gonna go over and count the radios?
Right.
Ask the guys?
No, that's the counts. And Andy, to your point, the only way we get down from that is if we pick and choose. And even that being said, if we're gonna do it, is this gonna be do you want the county to purchase them all and then distribute them out? Or are we gonna separate it so everybody gets X amount? I mean, Paul, how much more work do you? How would you rather facilitate those? Give everybody their own allotment for radios? Or do we just buy the radios and get them out?
I mean, I guess you got two options. You've got the $3.2 million. I mean, you got some of the municipalities are fine with a different radio. Some only want Motorola. Like whether or not you go out with another quote, find out how much cheaper the other ones and who would accept one versus the other. Maybe you could do more counties for less money. I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of, so many different options, but.
Right.
When do you finally just pull the trigger and say, we'll pay for 50%, you gotta find the other 50%, or we'll pay for 31/3? You pay for the other 2/3, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what funds they have, if they have any, if they have capital project room or not. I mean, we're dealing with what? 20 counties or municipalities?
I guess my question to the fire chiefs would be, is this something that's been duplicated throughout the country that fire municipalities, the fire departments have been receiving ARPA funds for this kind of thing? It's something that, you know, has been maybe playbook's not the right word, but something that in your association that said like, hey, hit up the counties for, you know, for ARPA money. This is something that's been done in Philadelphia, Miami, something like that. Is that something that?
Fair question, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's been on any other places. I don't.
And then I just have one further point, and I mean, I don't feel comfortable telling the fire department, hey, you should use this kind of radio. You've already been using Motorola's. But that being said, when you do use something local, that money continues to get recycled, whether that's, you know, I got maybe use the courthouse, the people putting the windows were from Winnebago County. They live here, they pay their taxes here. That money, you can see that moving around. And so, you know, I just say that it's something that it should at least be discussed, but this is a hard topic too, but this is why we're here. But I just really want to say that, you know, I don't know if Nielsen is building radios here, if it's just one person, right? There's a lot of unanswered questions here, but I'm always going to be a proponent of buying locally and supporting our local communities. So just, I know I threw a lot at you, but I think that's the valid question that needs to be answered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not my intention at all to delay the requesting process. As I've stated, I have a concern about the request from the city of Oshkosh. However, I am prepared to move to approve a number excluding the city of Oshkosh at this time, conditioned upon the city of Oshkosh qualifying their request, which we could bring up at a later date, right?
I mean, we could.
I mean, yeah, because in other words, a question has been raised by a county supervisor. We go ahead and approve the initial request from everybody else. City of Oshkosh has to respond and somewhat demonstrate that need. Would that be illogical?
But you're not making anyone else demonstrate the need. I mean, and.
Only because I read
I
an
know.
article that they've already bought their radio.
But
I have not read an
In
article
his
about being
email.
a Nashua or any other.
in his email, it does say each department needed. You asked, what do you need for radios?
Yeah.
So how do we know Van Dyne didn't? Theirs are only 5 years old, but hey, we could use new or other, I mean. I appreciate what you're saying, but based on a newspaper article that maybe the other ones just weren't published. I mean,
Well,
what?
I think this fire department is referring to is actually within county jurisdiction. So that could very well be the case, that they've updated that fire department. I know they're looking at a different truck, right? Additional truck, a newer truck. So that could be a factor I'm not aware of.
Mhm.
And it could have been done after they purchased radios. So I'm not saying at this point we shouldn't fund them. I'm just saying we should hold funding on Oshkosh until it can be.
I would make a motion that we table this until our meeting in 2 weeks, so we can find out further information on this.
But before I entertain that, well, I suppose I can't really, the motion's on the floor. Yes, yep.
You've got a motion over here first.
Wait, what's the motion here?
I was going to approve.
Mary Ann, you paying attention over there? You got a full chart.
But
What was your motion?
I was going to approve funding at $3,107,000 $72,000.
Do I hear a second? That motion fails.
Before we get to Supervisor Buck's motion, I would hate to approve any money until we know what type of units each municipality wants to purchase. I think you had indicated that maybe Winnebago County bought the Nielsen one. Maybe when they look at the cost, now, if it's free money, it's free money, but maybe they're gonna be fiscally responsible and say,
I will tell you the Nielsen, we didn't, it came in at 12.15 today. But it was $1 million less than this, was the quote. And that's real money. Now, whether they want that or not, but if they're asking us, when my kid asks me for a sandwich, you get the sandwich that's in the fridge, right? And then I understand that. I also struggle with this because we already distributed $3,045,000 to all our local governments. I mean, I'm going on top of that. That being said, I still understand a need on some of these that only got this, and their tax base is just not. I'm more empathetic to the rural areas than I am to the urban areas, and that's just because when I'm looking at what they have to work with in their budgets, that's where I'm at. Huh?
I need to remind all of you, we've been working on this for about 2 years now. And when it first came in, it was over $4 million was the request. We said, we're gonna get to that. Now we're down to 3. Believe that there's less radios. I can't believe the radios went down in price. It's really hard for me to believe that. And so are we gonna sit there again? How much longer are we gonna sit and wait for this? We got counts. We asked him to go ahead and ask these 2 gentlemen to go ahead and work with us, get the counts. You said your staff would help take care of it, so they did it.
Yep.
They got the counts that were brought in. And as far as the price wise, if you want to get price, that's fine and dandy. We're going to get one for the sheriff too, and the sheriff just up and went and ordered his own, and there, you know what's happened there. But,
Yeah.
and that's what he got, is Motorola's. And I just got to ask you a question now. Would your fire department, fire department be happy if you didn't have Motorola's?
We would get Motorola's.
You just wouldn't take them from the county if they were gonna pay. Okay.
Well, that's all I go, okay. And the other thing is, do you think that, I mean, should there be skin in the game? I mean, 10 years ago, we paid 100% of them, for 100%. Maybe this time we say it's 50%, and we do half, and we say in 10 years, we can't do this again, even though we said that once. And that's where I struggle on this again, is that 10 years ago, but I do understand the public safety need. I struggle because we already gave $3 million to municipalities and townships, and as far as I know, it wasn't a priority for any of them to buy a single radio out of the $145,000. Well,
The other option is you set $1 million off for the other kind of radio, so that is what the funding may potentially be, and if you want Motorola, you have to pay the extra time. You get the generic, if you want more, you pay more.
drug plan.
Probably might not make it out of this room. I'm just trying to figure out if 50-50 or this is what we'll take.
I thought, all right.
Now, would it help to go back to the spreadsheet to see where things fall? If
I mean,
it's
I
more of
think-
a range?
I think-
I don't know.
I think I would like to give Chief Sweeney and maybe Adam another 2 weeks to come up with at least something to suggest to us a little bit better, because I feel if we continue going like this, it's gonna be all or nothing. Maybe we'll have the votes, maybe we won't have the votes. I don't know.
Well,
Chuck already proposed the just about the full amount and nobody agreed. And seconded it, so it kind of sounds like that's maybe a no from this commission, at least at the full amount.
There's still a motion on the table or on the floor to table this.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right. I went ahead of you. Yeah, so actually you have an agenda item. It needs to be dealt with in some action.
There's a motion to be tabled. I haven't heard a second yet.
I'll second it.
Table till when?
Yeah, date certain.
Yes, the October 20th was our date.
Yes.
For, 2 weeks, right? Our next meeting.
I second.
You got a second?
Tim,
Table till second.
Tim second, all right?
I just have a question now, before we vote on that. What are you going to send these two guys out to do now that they already got it done?
That's,
I need some direction.
no,
Clarify the issue with city of Oshkosh.
Yes. That can be done with a phone call, probably.
clarify the city of Oshkosh. Ask who would be amenable to a different style of radio, or who is Motorola or Rutherford. Would be a good thing for me to know.
Or if it's a partial, how else would it be funded?
That was included in this one because they asked me that. Would you be interested if it was funded at 50%? And I get, you can imagine, I get every answer.
Sure.
Yes, I would, but I wouldn't take the 20. I would get 10 radios in. I mean, I get every answer. They can't answer that over a phone call. They don't have it. I tough answer.
Yes, this is the priority. That's at some point, the fire departments are gonna need new radios. It's gonna come from the taxpayers, right? I agree with all that. It's a public safety issue. The other question that I'd like answered for the meeting is that has any fire departments throughout the country use ARPA funds to buy radios?
From counties.
From
Many other counties
Yep.
have used
Yep.
their, and Adam, maybe that's something that you could find out if any other counties have
Find out a
used.
lot easier than I could.
Right. All right, so there is a motion and a second to table this until the next meeting.
And could we also get the budget or the quote between the Motorola and the alternative?
No, they have.
They have.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough time for us to.
Yeah, that's fine,
Put
but
it together.
if you get that out ahead,
Okay.
it sort of gives us something to judge.
All right, there's been a motion to table this to the next meeting in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nate,
One nay.
Chairman, can I take a slight recess or repeat?
Yeah, you may. All right, back to, before we move on, I do want to appreciate all the fire departments. You guys have been very patient with us. I know this is really hard. It's not easy for us even to set priorities. $33 million seems like a lot of money, but it goes really quick. So we do appreciate, I appreciate at least you guys showing up to every meeting. And that does mean a lot to your commitment to the cause. I want that to go on the list. All right, on to discussion item or action item 6. To prioritizing.
We're back to the spreadsheet that has all of that's gonna do the calculation. Yep. With your notes on, Mark. So my ask of you was to come up with the ranges between the range that you would consider funding each program and just looking at each program independently.
Question for you. Perhaps we could do this a little slightly differently.
Sure.
Since we have Winnebago here, we asked them to prioritize their ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Should we take a crack at just Winnebago alone here? Can we do that as a section?
We can section it off.
However,
I would recommend not making any final decisions until we have the whole thing.
right,
So, sure.
at least try to whittle that.
So Winneconne is close to the bottom. Winneconne starts its application number 32.
You just give me a reminder which
Line
ones that we said
57.
no to? Which numbers?
52, 53, 63, 64, 68.
Oh, hold on one second, sorry, was that
Sorry.
60? Yeah.
Out there at the top, we defined 52, 53, 63, 64, 68, 69, and 70.
You said 52, 53 were declined?
Yep.
6, 10, and 12 too, because my list has declined 10 and 12.
I'm just talking just the village of Winneconne ones. So 32, 39, 70, 31, 49, 66, 67. Still on the list, right?
Mhm.
And did you get a response on priorities?
Yes.
Okay.
So Cassie Winneconne is line 57, closer to the bottom. If you're looking at an Excel spreadsheet. Sorry, that's on Cassie.
Okay.
Yeah,
67.
no. Yeah, yes, for you, but for Cassie to find it.
That's the basketball fans.
So.
Chuck, we were looking at just Winneconne specifically. Okay.
Village?
Village, yep.
So we pulled out anything that was not related to this park.
Mhm.
And I asked them to prioritize, and then for the improvements and addition of the boat docks, piers, fish cleaning, if they could help, if they could also break out instead of here's the one chunk, each piece of it, so you can see the cost.
Okay.
So that's in there. We want to use this, because I'm looking online. I mean, that's all, that mirrors what Kathy has up there.
We have a use of the 145,000 for any of the remodeling.
They
In the
stated
park.
Winneconne stated 145 from the county is being used to support the Lake Winneconne DNR match grant, which is improving that park that was once owned by the county. So they're using it as a portion of the, they must have received a whole grant.
Remodel the barn, whatever. Remodel the west shelter on the lake.
Well, that's all of the park project that they requested. That was verbatim how they responded. Being used to support the DNR match grant, which is improving that park.
Which number was that all the numbers?
Are we using this document? Because I think it's streamlined.
Well, yes, this document has their verbatim responses to those questions.
And prioritized?
A question of the Winneconne, folks. For the things relative to the boat trailer parking, additional car parking, invasive species, fish cleaning station. Are there any fees for service at that boat landing? Do you have to pay money to launch a boat? Do you have to pay money to use the washer?
There is, and we also have, James here as our Director of Public Works that may know more about it than I, but I do believe our receipts are in the neighborhood of 35,000 a year that we get from that boat launch facility. That's a rough number. And between the two, that also includes the other boat launch that is by the Fin and Feather, so they don't all come from that part. And I do believe that we put about 250,000 into doing 2/3 of that seawall a few years ago, so we're already 4 or 5 years behind on the income from the boat launch fees, just paying for what we put in 5 years ago.
Thank you.
I guess a question for you, is because the way you prioritized, I guess, how did you come up with the way you prioritized? I guess.
Steering over to G.
Right,
Park Committee,
what's that?
here's in the village.
Here's the village?
Yep.
Because what I heard before is that you took over the park, and you had a hard time keeping up with it, maintaining it, right?
It's not just one park,
No,
we love all of our parks together.
No, I get that, but the county part, right, that
Yep.
you took over. And that is where the barn is, right?
Yep.
And that is where the shelter is, right?
2 shelters, yeah,
2 shelters.
east and west,
Do you rent those out?
yes,
So you get revenue from the barn
correct,
and you get revenue from the shelters.
correct.
And that wasn't your top 3 priorities? Or that was your committee decided those?
It was a committee.
Okay.
My priority might be a little different. Because you wanna keep the nicest things nice that you're bringing in the revenue, is my thought behind that.
Long going, you want to keep the things that brings the revenue
Yes.
in. Because right now your barn isn't heated,
Correct,
so you can't rent that.
done in October.
It's done October to April,
Yep,
right? But if it was heated, it would be a revenue source
year round.
year round.
It's also not air conditioned, so July and August are
Make it
not
harder
a
to-
high priority
It's
either.
more- It's more.
I guess, and that was my confusion when I saw it, is that when I was looking at the things you were asking for, if there's grants associated with the project, I understand that. And I think that's kind of what I heard, but number 1 was the playground equipment for priority. Unless I had that wrong, right?
No, that's how
what
it's
it listed, right?
Yeah.
The
So,
playground equipment isn't included in the match grant.
what's that?
The playground equipment is not included in the match grant,
What was included in the match grant?
lake access.
Lake access.
So
So
boat
are there
trailer
any
parking.
asks on here that would be part of that match grant?
Yes, it would be the boat trailer parking, the fish cleaning station, and whatever the third was on there.
Larger bulkheads, extended parking,
Priority number
facility upgrades,
application 31.
Say that again?
6?
facility upgrades in general.
Yes, but that wouldn't be included in the lake access facility.
Grant. That's $500,000, right? Identified as the number 6.
And that was project 31, correct?
I'm saying that it's, the ranking was number 6 or 31 and 49. It's the old one.
In our grant was 250, and we had to match that, but the DNR was specific to water related, that
Lake access.
lake access.
So that would be the Lake Winnebago Park seawall, and that's all part of the fish cleaning thing, that's lake
Right.
access. So that is the part that would be connected to the grant, matching grant that you're looking for, right?
Correct.
Correct.
And the fish cleaning deal, one of those pavilions just hasn't been used much. So the plan was to convert a building that we already have into the fish cleaning, and hopefully a pressure wash station, which is really big with the invasive species and stuff, now to wash your boat when you pull it out.
So that, if I might, that's more for the boat cleaning, which I understand, other municipalities have that. Because you can clean a lot of fish for $250,000. So I was confused about our 236. I was confused. What would be involved in fish cleaning only for $236,000?
The facility. the building, we have to make the building able to withstand the sinks and the grinders and the pumps. Cause you have to go somewhere with the leftovers.
Don't people clean fish in their garage?
If some of the places on Lake Michigan that have a nice cleaning facility draw in a whole lot more people because that facility is there. My personal opinion, the drive-through parking and so forth is probably, would be my priority. Flip side is, Wayne County promised me a fish cleaning facility 50 years ago, and I've been on the board, I've been struggling and working towards it. I'd like to accomplish it before I tip over, but.
Dog park.
I mean, Tom, were you gonna say something?
Oh, okay.
I'm comfortable with the seawall. I'm comfortable with the barn and the shelters because that's sustainability, and then it gives you do you rent the shelters out too? But that's only.
The one, my opinion, and James can certainly speak up, when we first got that part from the county, somebody started the word that we were going to build condos on that beautiful high hill and rake in a lot of money, and to shut everybody up, we built a wedding gazebo on top of that hill. And I was pushing for it because my daughter was the first person married in that wedding gazebo. And the barn works hand in hand with that wedding gazebo, and it is so popular. It is so easy to rent the barn because they have a facility in case it rains and so on and so forth. The downside with the barn is no air and no heat, so it really, you take such a gamble when you rent it the way it is now. The shelters are not used as much as they were back in the day, and I don't know the reason for that. They're very outdated, if probably the biggest reason. Park shelter and a porta potty isn't what everybody's looking for.
Barns, seawall, and the rest of the stuff I think we should think about. I don't know.
Didn't you have to have something done to get a grant or something by the end of this year?
Seawall.
It's
Seawall.
Yeah, that was.
seawall is
Seawall, and that was
already
the
out
lowest
for
rate.
bids, and it's, I believe, starting soon. If we have to just do the seawall, then the whole doubling the parking space kind of takes the back seat, and we have the land to double the parking for our boats and trailers. Right now, everybody that lives within 2 or 3 blocks on every Saturday has a bunch of trailers and cars in front of their house. We just have to redo the ditches and the drainage and everything, but we have the room to move forward and double our parking. And more importantly, the plan is for drive-through parking. Might get thrown out of here, but if your fishing partner is not very good at backing up a trailer, you can now send her to go get the car while you dock the boat. No, you send your partner, okay, I still misspoke.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying, the request was for that whole cluster of both docks, piers, fishing, that was $165,000 request. So for Winnebago, do you propose 150 for the barn and 155 improvements to that outside, and then that's it, and nothing on the rest of them?
I mean, yeah, that's what I would propose.
Is that, how does everybody else feel?
215.
Yeah, so this isn't a final, this is just to
Correct.
start adding up.
So if we took 16.6 as all the
No,
requests.
no, don't go there. Nope, we're not there. Nope.
Yep.
We gotta, don't worry about it.
No,
Not yet.
There's a reason for it.
Okay, sorry.
If you take the total of all the requests of 16.6. And let's just say that these gentlemen over here, Christmas comes early and they get 3.25, whatever. Bottom line is you've got 6 million left. 6 million to 16.6 is 36%. If you funded everything else, play King Solomon, just divided everything in half, yep, cut the baby, everyone would get 36%. I'm just saying that as a point of reference.
Sure.
And
But I would say, how are we justifying to the supervisors? This is an important project. We think it needs this much funding. That,
I agree, we have to then go each one individually, but in the back of our minds, think about.
there are a number of these that I would absolutely not fund at all.
Yeah.
I would not get, so to me, it felt backwards to say, let's get everybody 30% and then take away and then add, rather than just kind of going line by line and then continuing to
And
diminish.
I'd like to get to municipality ask because we already gave them $145,000.
And that might make it quicker to go
Right.
and add money back in.
Right.
That's fine. But that's why I would
Saying that,
say,
all the
I
time,
know.
145, but everybody got a share of that.
That's right.
And it got brought in because we got 33 million.
Yep.
That was given to us, so.
Correct. Which I agree with.
Right.
Right.
so Winneconne, it feels like, is ever,
I would like to propose to cross out 32 playground equipment, 39 park shelter. What else was alive? There was 70
So-
crossed out.
for Cassie, for now, for 32, put a 0.
Well, I'm just proposing and nobody's agreed to this yet.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, if
And
you
we're not,
could,
this is not this is just a working document.
Yep.
So that's why I would say instead of cross out, why don't we just put a 0?
proposing to cross out everything else except for those two. The, I want to keep in the
Identify
seawall,
them as part of the ranking, it might be easier.
seawall 31 and, I'm sorry, Jack, I'm blowing off my notes, and the barn.
So it'd be 6, priority ranking would be 6, and the barn would be, I believe,
3.
3, yep.
31.
That's what would you like me to do?
priority ranking 30. You're on 183. Oh, that's the ranking on this document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So application
relate to that.
32 is 0. Application 57 is 0. Application 60 is 150,000.
5.
Application 49 is 0.
5.
Application 39 is 0. And application 31 is 165,000. Yep.
So that's on the first round?
So then do you, yep.
Yep.
What's the next municipality? Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah. It's about 35% of what they told them what they asked for. What you want?
I understand. I totally.
I get it.
Keeping 3. And number 6. 3 is on.
Their priority 3 and 6, you know.
Mhm.
So they will have to do those projects. They can say, okay, here's $350,000.
How we do the resolution, right, is how,
Okay.
what if if it gets to the point of being a resolution, yeah.
Very good, thank you.
I should have brought a pencil.
Do you want to move to Nina?
We start with the.
What about Algoma? Are we?
Is there anybody else here? Yeah. Algoma? Since it's just one.
There?
There's one road and one.
Algoma?
You held a Algoma supervisor here.
Hold on, I do. There we are.
Oh,
Thank you for your consideration.
So Town of Algoma is the application 40.
43. Okay.
$87,500 request.
That's
Yeah.
one leg of that term, of that.
Yeah.
This Del Fair was this one that he didn't think that.
Right.
To be on there.
It's, my heart and my brain don't agree on this one. That's where I'm at on this one. I know it's a dangerous intersection. I know we are, making that into roundabouts. I know it's had a lot of issues. And, yeah.
I would say, I mean, is they're including this, is our decision gonna make this move forward any faster? I don't know, I would say that, you know, when I got on the county board, one of the issues is the roundabout and people getting killed. I think that this is a legacy thing, right? It's a legacy project. Like I said, you know, if it's your son or daughter driving through there, does this, you know, I think everybody agrees with that, and the want versus need. You know, again, we're picking winners and losers. This isn't easy. So I think, you know, yes, I represent the town of Algoma. Everybody knows it's a dangerous intersection. Is it all or nothing with the town here? That's the only thing that they're asking for. So I think we need to consider and deliberate over it. So how we move forward.
No, this is. Just tell him.
All right.
You've got per email. They're waiting for 2 estimates for projects they want to submit. That's Town of Algoma, and that's on the 145. Yeah, they adding 145, the 145 into this to try to clean that up.
According to, I think it was Joel Rasmussen that even emailed he said the 145 is proposed for the repaving of several roads and is not going to be used for the roundabout or the stormwater ponds. Roads are 30 years old, water tends to pond in them. So they have another intent for the 145,000.
As supervisor representing the town, I've always been unable to determine Highway 21's a bid. So I assume the state is not paying for it, or at best a portion of it, because they did schedule it. The town of Algoma is pushing and saying, we want to get it done. State saying, okay, if you want to do it, you pay for it, right?
I think it was similar to the roundabout in what Fox Crossing on CB or whatnot that was only paid for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we are with this. So the actual cost of the town is over $6 million, right? That's a lot of money for a town.
So.
And I agree with the comment, if you're talking legacy, this is specific to that point. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm generally sporty about it all.
Anybody else?
Joel's response was the WIS DOT is covering the northeast and westbound legs. So Town of Algoma will cover the southbound legs.
Okay, so it's broken up. Good. That's better yet.
It's the 387, right?
Correct.
Yeah, 387.5.
Yeah, I mean, say furthermore on this, like, sure, this is in the town of Algoma, but you know, people from all over the state are using that intersection, right? And this is something that, to me, it's almost a no-brainer, but it's my opinion.
I'm in agreement. I live way south, so we use it all the
Yeah.
time. That one feels like, even though it's from the town of Algoma, it affects the county line. That's
And,
my purpose.
and I would add on to that comment that I know we can't mandate it or we're not allowed to do that, but would say that, you know, you just think about the people working on that and hopefully they're from the area and that also has a residual effect and benefit for doing this. So, and oftentimes too many people forget about the people actually doing the work and how that affects them. Construction workers make a living off of the next project. We work ourselves out of a job. Every construction job is a temporary job. So there's, you know, it's almost one hand washes the other in this.
Can we leave that on there for now?
So put it at 387.5. Okay.
Where do you wanna go to next?
Menasha is right above it. On the spreadsheet. I think that's the first one in the. Oh, yes.
Priority one, yep.
My comment, I really like that priority ranking. Thank you for taking the time to do that. That really helps.
So Menasha, we originally struck out a number of those projects. Sorry, I take that back. The mayor either rescinded or took off of the priority list. So Menasha starts with application 48 is priority number 1. That's the mobile traffic barriers.
Did he pull those off?
No, that was his number 1 priority. Then number 2 was waiving the tax debt for Whiting site. 3 was cost to move the Winnebago County Housing Authority. And then from there.
If I might, I have a question on the mobile barriers. And I've seen those in action. Nina and Menasha have both requested that. We sometimes have events on the same day. We can always get the old concrete barriers too from a construction company to put up. Isn't there any way for them to share those? I just find that 2 communities next door to each other have they asked that question of themselves?
Sharing fire departments?
Oh, gosh, yes, thank goodness.
I'm gonna see what's in Nina here.
So Menasha's request includes transport equipment to bring them from storage to the community event taking place. I don't know if that's a truck or a trailer.
Yeah, that's my point.
Are these the little, the white things that we see at the farmer's market?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yep.
Little
The middle
barrier,
ones that
little
fold
metal
up.
thing, yeah.
They're really handy, but how many do we need? And should we ask those 2 communities to do just what they do with the fire departments, put their heads together and see how many they really need?
I would agree with that sentiment.
So probably 27 from Nina, which was the top priority. It was both their top priority.
Yeah. I agree with it fully, but what's the best use of their and our money?
So for this, would you say the minimum would be half, split each of them in half? Or,
I think at minimum, as prioritizing Menasha here, we're saying one moves on with talked with
Mhm.
Nina.
so
Or
each
this,
was 300, should we say 300? And then 0 for Menasha, but just to add up? Or are you saying 0 for both and we may add money back in?
say yes to both.
Oh,
and
yes
see
to
what
both?
They figure
Okay.
out. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and who asked that question? Of them.
Yeah.
Now, is the citizen group still a thing? You handle that?
It's me.
Yeah, it's you, all right.
I'm not making the citizen group
Sure.
come together to type an email.
Okay, got it. Got
I'm
it.
not making them do
Right,
that.
yes, if you could reach out. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
priority two, the gentleman talked about that, at the open forum. I guess I just have a little conflicted. He said that, wanted to do this for high income property. I don't remember how he worded it, I guess, when he said
It's
it.
in the water, right?
I don't know if anybody else can provide some more context.
It's
to this.
between two channels, north channel, south channel. The north channel, because of the round gobies, is a green mess of junk. There's no high-end housing that's gonna go on that end of the island until they open up the darn locks. And I don't wanna be so crass, but it would be a lovely sight if the lock was open, but it's not, and I'm not sure if it's ever gonna be open. It's a darn shame.
And who owns the tax debt on it? This would be us? Would this be cutting ourselves the check? Mary Ann, do you know the answer? Paul, do you know the answer? I don't know the answer.
I believe they owe Winnebago County the debt on the property, is what I thought I've heard before. They want us to forgive the debt.
Waive the debt owed to Winnebago
Yeah.
County to allow the sale.
Winnebago County. So they can develop the property or have a developer come in and buy the property to develop it.
Wow. And right next to
That's my underlying sarcasm, I guess. or-
This would be, because we can't do that through this commission, and we would be allocating $1.2 million into our general fund pretty much to pay the debt.
Isn't that right in the,
And right next to the Whiting Mill is the city of Manatee power plant.
Okay.
Another lovely view.
Oh, sewer plant.
No, not sewer power.
Right, so.
Look at these final rules, and that's nowhere in here that we can find.
Okay. That's
So let's say a zero then, all right.
Number two is.
So priority three, cost to move Winnebago County Housing Authority office to new location. It was part of the Water Street plan, $4 million.
That's not in here either,
I-
for moving businesses from one place to another. That's. How is it attractive to a COVID situation or?
well, I guess one could argue on that the housing authority, I mean, is it a benefit? Is there gonna be one in Oshkosh, one in, I don't know, one in, and this is gonna be another one in Menasha? That,
Isn't it at,
Already in Menasha, isn't it? Or
is it at the Levin building? Where's it
the
housed?
Housing Authority currently?
I'm not familiar, I don't.
Do you know where the building?
You know where that is?
Where is this?
The current housing authority in Menasha?
Does it give us an address?
Doug, any idea? Anyone on?
Look it up online.
Okay, this says 265 Pecana Street, Menasha.
Oh, okay, so where that is that as you continue down Main Street and you get Crazy Donkey? Everybody know where Crazy Donkey is? That's Pecana Street that keeps on going straight. So that's where they've got a City of Menasha sign. There's a little, that is where the buildings, the apartments and the resident and the retail spaces burned down. So you drive down east on Main Street. Pecana Street continues straight. Generally speaking, we turn left onto, I think that's,
So they're
Taco
just looking
Street.
for a new location.
Yeah,
They're
Taco.
currently in
Yeah.
Menasha as a part of the Water Street plan, which I'm not sure what that is.
So I'd be open for that going on for further discussion.
And Water Street is actually on the canal. So as you pass all of those deadbeat bars on Taco Street, Water Street is just before the bridge.
So that must be where they're moving it
So
to.
they've got those new apartments going on where the building burned down. Right across the street from that is the Deadbeat Bars. And as you're going into Neenah, Water Street is right there.
I don't know that area at all.
Right.
So it's moving from Menasha to another place in Menasha, so
So-
put 150 in there.
What they're trying to
I'm
do
okay
is twist
leaving
that up.
Oh,
The
okay.
Whiting area, the Whiting Mill is all down in that area as well.
Okay.
There was a massive fire down there a couple of years ago.
On the corner, right by Jitters there.
And Priority 4 is,
Priority 3 left on there.
Yeah, I would.
sorry,
150 and number
Yes.
3, okay.
I'll put a question mark on that one.
is fencing for So then is it safe to assume sidewalks in Appleton? Fencing 0,
All right,
Fencing 0.
fencing 0.
sidewalk on Appleton Ave, priority 5.
Oh,
I need more information on that one because is that state, is the state willing? That's the one I don't know.
that should get full justification on item 3 in this rule. And the scheduling needs to be with the streets, and I've talked to Ms. Dowling about that. I said, if you're gonna try to get that run through, you're gonna have to get
The city.
together with the city
Yeah.
and talk with Mr. Mertz and talk with the street department.
Any response?
Nothing yet.
And that's a state road there, right?
47, right?
Yep.
Right.
Appleton
that's
Road
state
is a
road.
State road.
Letter about somebody's. Was it?
I think it was a mayor or
Yeah.
somebody like that that said it
There are
was.
letters of support for it.
Yeah, but by the state, like what's,
But even from the mayor, you still need to go to public works. We need to
Mhm.
know what their
Right.
plan is for that.
I might suggest that he is not running in the springtime again.
Oh, so the
So
mayor,
it's gonna get even messier.
when I talked to our highway commissioner on this one, he. And I don't know if there's a different side of the road or where it goes, but where the ditch currently is, I mean, there'd be, he said it costs 15 million, not 1.5 million, because you'd have to put in stormwater, all the stuff, so maybe there's a way for it to be on the other side, maybe there's a way for a path to be, because I understand the safety concerns of the people walking.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be a sidewalk next to state owned, because if it's a state road, they're the ones that own the right of way. Right, so that's the question, is there another way to accomplish the safety issue?
Like a bike path.
Right, that isn't necessarily a sidewalk on a state road.
Blacktop bike path.
And
So 0 and that, is that what?
I would
we're
assume
at?
0, but not off the list?
I put a question mark because I think we need a lot more detail. I wouldn't rule it out yet, but
Right, that's exactly it, I wouldn't rule it out either, but.
I just do a question mark for now.
so, yeah,
I need a lot more
we may
information.
come up with our list, and as we do resolutions, the supervisors may say no. So then we can go back and say, okay, you're the ones with the question mark, maybe we allocate it to this, or something like that, because whatever we propose is not gonna fully 100% go through.
Right.
So we're also gonna have to keep doing kind of a rolling list of, okay, what are our priorities, who would be there next?
Well, and then we'll just make a note, to
So,
put that on pause, and I'll see if our highway commissioner could be here at the next meeting.
okay,
Have him reach out to the state.
so,
For 6.
we'll put I'm going to highlight that one. So for now, Cassie, I would say just put a 0 to add numbers, but we'll keep.
I highlighted the box.
Yeah.
I'll take the question mark out and put 0.
Then ballistic resistant glass for police department, interior and exterior,
I'd say. Oh,
and then a recycling truck. Okay. Menasha is done. Amro?
Would be the Amro.
Yep.
Starting with item 20. Application 20.
So Amro responded, you see the numbers, but they said, however, if the commission would fully fund Tyler Jackson reconstruction project, they would do that as number one. They are using their $145,000 to fund that. So that one is what was confusing. If the cost of the project is 230, why are they asking for 230 if that's where their 145 would go to? But I didn't have enough time before I had to submit this for publication to go back and forth.
That's city or town.
Cities.
I think when I talked to the mayor there, the lady that was putting this together was gone on vacation. Well, I said, you know, that isn't even into that 145,000 yet. He went, well, people knew it was all in. I said, all your stuff wasn't even in yet. So. Taken off. I'm not sure.
You know what you're asking for there, Kyle? Oh, question 230. What does it mean by requested by one?
I'm looking at the response.
Response over here was Jackson Tyler Street, an ACH was on 10/6/2023 for 145. That's what the.
Oh, I interpret that they want to apply to 145. They haven't got yet to that project.
They got that today.
Right.
You got that today?
Oh, 45 today for Tyler.
Okay, so then,
So that's.
No, that's done. That's not.
well, the question is, so if they want the 145 to go toward that, do they want do they want plus 230 or do they take 230 minus 145?
230 was the original request. After we got the connection for the 145, so we would have an additional 85, I guess.
Okay, for the math.
That should be confirmed with them.
I-
Or just say they got the 145, let's charge the number two.
Fine.
Let's leave it on the main drag. Is there a safety concern here?
Tyler Jackson is. And clear is it's on the main drag and not a development.
Infrastructure wise, I see this being part of your normal, what you would normally fund.
Betsy, you're taking 230 and subtracting the 145 from it and leaving it off. No.
Priority request.
Priority, is done. So that.
What is that? We're looking at,
Well, they
85
said
grand?
if we would fund it, then they would want that to be number one. So it could be, I mean, that's the conversation. Do we want
I
to
think-
say put,
If they're applying the 145,000 to it, they're already doing it. I would be inclined to say no to this project.
have strong? Yeah,
Go to the next one then.
storage.
It's just me though, what about everybody else?
Well, I wonder if we shouldn't pencil in 85 on the amount requested.
And then move it forward?
That kind of to make sure that.
Hold that amount.
We use the whole road there. It's 145, don't go pretty far either.
And it's we're behind the Cuddy Highway, so it's hard for me to pay for other asphalt. On top of it.
So then their next priority would be the storage facility for the Public Works Department.
Built a new shed on top there. I don't know why, although I know the old one that's across from. Curtis Bridge, go across the bridge there and the housing authority there. After they had a lot of like their snow plows and all.
Oh, yeah.
That one's what is it?
Yeah, look at me.
I'm gonna do some of the sewer lines.
anything. Then you go to heck on them, what are you gonna do?
Well, I would say to that point that, in the period of ARPA, if you remember that, that's, one of the key points in there for us.
What would be infrastructure?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And specifically water infrastructure.
So they have a number of dilapidated, so that's, I mean, they're number one, if we would say 0 to storage facility, and then move to application 21. Oh, that's sidewalks and transportation, is that infrastructure? Would you do 0 there and then move to priority number 3, application 16 with the water sewer under the Fox River.
That's bringing the clean water across too, right? That's for.
I mean, Morris, read this one of the 6 thing on the water infrastructure.
For broadens water sewer projects to include stormwater, culvert repair, dam, and reservoir rehabilitation.
That's certainly in the high priority category.
I think 3, but not at 500 because 700 is the total cost. I would move it forward at 350 at half. I think skin in the game is an important part here.
Yeah, good with that.
Something better than nothing.
And also, we didn't necessarily quantify exactly what each stage meant, so research, maybe they are, so that doesn't mean they're just thinking about it necessarily, so.
You want 350 there?
350,
That's on number 3,
correct.
350.
Engineering and number 4.
Is this the one that's connected with the Habitat for Humanity thing, or is this not? Are these separate?
Drainage plan.
That's what's bringing that Habitat project from 20 to 14 out in Amro. Is this the same one?
Might be.
Either by the. That must be, I would think, but I'm not positive.
In order to forward second, in conjunction with property owned by Habitat for Humanity for building for housing. So it is, so that affects now, not just the city.
Helps that project move forward. They're struggling to try to fit, instead of fitting 20, they can only do,
And that's number 3.
number 4.
Number 4, so that's,
12,500.
I mean, it's 12,500, that feels like a huge impact.
Right.
Such a light amount.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to take it and get it over with.
Yep.
You know. You have item 5.
Yeah.
Is 4 a yes then for this?
4 is a yes for 12,500. I am also taking notes so we can compare and make sure to.
Confirming as I move through.
Yeah.
And Amaro, application 22, priority 5. You have water, sewer, storm sewer, sidewalk, curb and gutter, replace Monroe Avenue and Superior Street.
We think we'd want to break that out into the water, sewer, and storm sewer in the spirit of what we're doing, but sidewalks and streets probably should be on them.
We're gonna give them the whole 500,000 or, no? Yeah, the research phase, so.
And we wanna find out what the water is, and I think if we already did the other one, and we wanna be fair on the whole county here.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah,
And then I think if we do the one and not,
yeah, no, yeah, makes sense.
0 for 5 and 6.
Yep.
The last one is reconstruction on Clemens Court.
Are we going to ask them to come back to us with what just the water and storm sewer is on those two projects?
yeah, cause we're gonna,
Yep.
we'll look at the one that goes under the river.
Okay.
And, yeah, I agree with what you're, what you're getting at here, that,
Yep.
Also being fair to the other.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Help out.
yeah, well, you think about how much money you're paying in, and how much money you're getting out, it's not, right? This is a tough balance to get here.
Right.
Clemens Court and their original application, that's all they said. Reconstruction of Clemens Court. I don't know what that means. When I looked on a map, it looked like it was a small, there were 5, 7 houses. I don't know what that means.
Clemens Court, a street,
Yeah.
It's a court, so it's a little street.
pickleball court.
No, it's not a pickleball court. Whereas bringing levity 0 for number 7. So then there was a duplicate request for Amro and
You have number 8.
8. Dog
oh
park.
yeah, the dog park. I have a question mark on, is that what you said might go into the government?
No, it was not.
Okay.
We built the dog. Right, right? And Supervisor Buck knows what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter to me. I can easily say no to this, like, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So 0 for that one.
Yep.
And, okay, yeah, and then duplicate, so Amro's done.
You don't take your dog down in the county park anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Nina, we have.
Nina, then for that vehicle barrier system, that's one that I will, message both of them together and ask if they can share. Or what that would look like.
What about you've got the
And then,
water mains?
yeah, Nina had replaced 2 of 3 water mains serving Doty Island. So that's application 28 and.
That Nina, number 2 as a maybe, but
Two of the,
get digging in there to find out that it's gonna cost a lot more than.
yeah, so there in the original application. There are 3 water mains serving Doty Island. 2 of the 3 are nearly 100 years old and need a replacement. The intention of the project is to add new water mains along the Oak Street Bridge and abandon the old water mains. This project serves Doty Island, including State of Care Regional Medical Clinic and Children's Hospital.
And I bet they have that on a CIP plan.
Well, I mean,
Project.
if we're saying yes to Amro's water utility, I mean,
Well-
why are we saying no to Nina's?
And my argument would be, city of Monroe got $375,000 in ARPA, $152,000 in new share revenue. City of Nina, I'm not trying to pick a 5.5 million, 645,000 in new share revenue, and they had also got a neighborhood improvement grant themselves for 3 million. So they had a lot of revenue come in, and that wasn't a priority for them. City of Amro did not get any neighborhood improvement grant, and 375,000 for ARPA wasn't gonna touch any of that stuff.
So you should be pulling this one because
So 0 for that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
I would push back on some of that.
Sure.
In the fact of saying that, you know, if I'm a NINA resident paying, you know, taxes to the county, I'm paying a lot more taxes in the city of Amro, right? And city of NINA residents are paying a lot more in taxes in the city of Amro. So, I mean, you could make an argument for that. I mean, I definitely can. So, nothing, you know.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate,
Morris-
they're not managing their grant money or their shared revenue money properly in order to get their streets and their water things taken care of. Lord.
So they
You live
have,
up
I'm going to be moving to Doty Island fairly soon.
You're a yes.
So I'm starting to save up rainwater to flush toilets.
Why don't we leave that as a question mark for now and come back and maybe address the dollar amount?
so this one, yes, is included in the CIP. If funding received with this project be replaced, they said no, we would move forward with the project and fund it with utility revenues.
Oh,
That was their response. It is part of the CIP currently.
They're planning on having the users pay for it anyways, as it is, right? I don't see this as being,
And my point would be that we're, you know, if we're still a little wary on the vehicle barrier, and if we're not gonna do anything for NINA, this could be something that we do, right?
Oh, they could replace each other.
Yeah.
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 So for now, I put 300 for the vehicle barrier, and we could put 0 for water, knowing that we could flip flop them.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, we still have to give some to Nina and some to Menasha
Sure.
for the
Yep.
barriers, but maybe not the whole enchilada.
Right.
Mhm.
We're gonna take that out of there. It's a no. 0.8.
So for now, yeah, so for now, just for calculation, I have 300,000 in the vehicle barrier and 0 for water. And we may shift that around a bit.
Depending on what Menasha, they work out.
Are we done with the minutes?
NINA.
Okay, so, oh wait, Oshkosh. So
probably raised it, no, but. Or, yeah,
the city of Oshkosh, so
city of Oshkosh.
depending on what you're looking at, Future Nina is a nonprofit. But they'd have to work with the Parks Department. That's why I wasn't sure where to put it, so I kind of had it in that municipality.
Are we on?
No, not yet. It's future NINA.
25.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I would have them talk to, I look at that one as an amenity.
That
That is not crucial to the life of the community, and if we want it, we can buy it. What do you think, Kate?
Yeah, but I would.
You know, we sure seem to be able to build an ice skating rink there.
Yes, you did. I would think, because it's a gateway park.
Okay, so 0 for that application 25, that's Future Nina. And then we can go to City of Oshkosh. So their first priority was the Commonwealth Development, proposing 55 low-income mixed-use developments on property that City of Oshkosh Redevelopment Authority currently owns. I think that also would include a second shift in here. Yeah.
It does.
Well, it's that, not in that, this is the abbreviated for brevity. In the original application, which is on the 9-foot by 10-foot paper over there, if you want to run over.
Needs justification, item 3 in the rules and item 4. Both require justification.
I love the idea, but that's a whole lot of stuff to, without parsing out, and it feels like a lot of huge concept. I don't, yeah, I mean, I love the concept, but
Is that feasible?
Is it?
I mean, no, I've talked to this, I've actually had a meeting with Commonwealth Development, way back when. This is something they've been looking at for years. And it's changed a few times, yeah. Changed locations a few times. I'm aware of their, what they do.
And I'm familiar because they purchased our church in Fond du Lac and did, so we, being on the board there, worked with them quite a bit. So, but for this sake,
Who's on the list of first right of ownership? You have the indigent, the elder.
I mean, that's the thing, I mean.
Really going to, is it really going to?
Could we have an MOU that our families and our human services have first
Right of ownership.
of units, or if there's a certain percentage cut off to the side?
Right.
Because we have families all the time, we're having a hard time finding a place to place them.
Is there any way to put that into the resolution so that it?
When we,
yeah.
if we got to there, yeah, we
got
could.
I'm at a little loss. Commonwealth Development, we're doing the city of Oshkosh.
So
Right,
the city of
What
Oshkosh
is
requested
that
this.
connection between, is that a developer?
yeah, no, this is not for the city, they're asking.
Oh, well, why we
The-
talking about that?
Well, the
We're gonna
city,
start funding developer now?
No.
the city
I
asked,
don't know.
so it came through as a request from the city, so Kelly Kelly sent it and said, the city of Oshkosh, and again, 10 foot by 9 foot right over there, but I can read it for you. The city of Oshkosh,
I would rather have the 750, actually, and I'll just say that, be considered to what Lou was proposing.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
okay,
so I would say,
What are you gonna, where is Lou?
is that?
well, that was part of,
Affordable workforce housing.
I'm trying to find a place to put it.
not on the docket.
Not on this yet, it's.
But I'm saying things that are housing, and this is housing, I think we
Yeah.
put that in, we start building.
A future document.
Right.
Which is, under the radios, I put other. That is just a blank number, so that could be, okay, let's-
Portion of that, yep.
yeah,
I think that.
So I would say no to this, but we look at.
Put in the box, refer to Lou.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing with their number 2, I would say no.
Yeah.
And put that in that same box.
Yeah.
Cause it needs to, if we're gonna look at something, it should be something that's available countywide, wherever.
We should notice for the public, we support the housing issue.
Sure.
but
Yes.
this is Specific to a city of Oshkosh.
Mhm.
Right.
We're looking at approaching on a county.
countywide.
Correct.
So on that, on the big document, the next one would be the Oshkosh Housing Authority. That was another one I didn't know if that was, I mean, because that was kind of in conjunction with the city of Oshkosh. So they have a homelessness project constructing 32 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. They were 6.5 million, looking for 500,000. But again, if you're, John, you're saying, would that also then maybe zero that with the hope to put some money in a housing
Yep.
initiative?
For that to little, right?
That's another.
So 0 for application 15. with Caveat that we're collecting some
I
money.
mean, again, no decisions are being
No,
made, but
this
I
is
would
not-
earmark that toward
Yes.
a housing fund. She's close to her 3.
Where are we at?
No, I was gonna say them 3, you just put the go to Lou or talk to Lou, they added up to 2.4.
Paul's being cute.
Yeah.
They wanted to-
433, I'm getting, see that.
Is that it for municipality?
That's it for municipalities.
Right, you wanna go for any of the,
It's up to you, or we can go continue in 2 weeks.
it's late.
Okay, we'll just pause it where it is, save it, and
Chairman, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
I need a secretary.
I have notes and everything, I gotta type up this. Or.
I don't have it broken down between the both.
You know, they were part of something and we made a difference. Like,
Yeah, I don't think we'll get some things on. We get rid of all these old ones.
Exactly.
I will make. You, is this helpful broken down like this?
I like that,
You want the full.
Give it all.